Let us pray. Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness has appointed the offices of rulers and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of humankind, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor us, your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of such important trusts in this land. Let your blessing descend upon us here in Parliament assembled, and grant that we may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the good of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. All which we ask in the name and for the sake of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. I have two announcements. But before I make them, I received a message from the children of Dr. Kupe that she's not feeling well. So if we can remember her in our prayers so that she can cross the Rubicon of health. I have to inform the House that there will be a mop-up photo session for all honorable members who have not yet had their photographs taken in both the national fabric and formal attire. The session is scheduled for Wednesday, 29th April 2026, from 1200 hours to 1700 hours in the lobby room. Ground floor. All affected honorable members are urged to attend and reminded to bring both outfits. Second announcement, I also have to inform the House that Parliament will be hosting a charity half marathon as part of its corporate social responsibility initiatives. The event seeks to promote health and wellness while raising funds for a charitable cause. Honorable members are encouraged to participate in the marathon. The registration fee for this event is $20 per participant. A registration desk has been set up at the main entrance to facilitate the ease of registration for honorable members. Members are kindly requested to contact Ms. Ziyambi on 077 506 0857 or Mr. Noble Nyathi on 077 533 1987 for further details on the registration processes. Your support and participation in this noble cause will be greatly appreciated. Are there any notices of motion? There is none. I have a request from 3 members on point of national interest. The first one is Honorable L. Nyelele. Sir, Mausalini.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise on a point of national interest to commend the concept behind the recent erection of the statue of Father Zimbabwe, the late Vice President Umkabugo Joshua Nkomo in Mapisa, Matopo District during the Independence Day commemoration. Mr. Speaker, when the statue was first unveiled, many people spent more time trying to identify the person on the pedestal than appreciating the occasion itself. Some were left wondering whether it was truly Umkabugo Nyongolo Nkomo or perhaps an honored villager who had arrived too early for the celebration. The workmanship was so questionable that the statue had to be removed, proving that even monuments can fail probation. However, while the artistic execution may have missed the mark, the concept behind it remains brilliant and highly commendable. The initiative speaks directly to the importance of preserving our national heritage, documenting our liberation history, and ensuring that future generations remain connected to the legacy of our national heroes. It strongly resonates with the motion previously moved by Honorable Chere, which I seconded, on the need to preserve our cultural heritage and honor the historical contribution of our heroes within the communities and regions where they made the greatest impact. The erection of such monuments in areas of historical significance is educational, culture, and patriotic. It strengthens national identity, promotes domestic tourism, and instills pride among local communities who become direct custodians of our liberation history. Our heroes must not only be remembered in textbook and at the National Heroes Acre, but also through visible and permanent landmarks in the very places where they shaped the national struggle and identity. I therefore submit that this should be a deliberate national policy that every province or district hosting national events such as Independence Day commemoration should establish permanent memorial statues or monuments of liberation icons and national heroes closely associated with that area. This will ensure that national celebrations leaves behind lasting historical, cultural, and developmental infrastructure for local communities. Of course, Mr. Speaker, say, as we do so, we must also ensure that the artists commissioned are introduced to the actual face of the hero. Therefore, they begin sculpting national memory must be preserved with dignity, not left open for public guessing competitions. Our heroes fought this nation with their lives. The least we can do is honor them properly and permanently. Let every independent celebration leave behind not just speeches and ceremonies, but monuments that will speak to generations yet unborn. I so submit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kalumbaga Pati. The next is Honorable Bajila.
Mulekabotu.
Trigabot.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker, and thank you so much for granting me this opportunity. I rise to underscore the profound significance of Africa Vaccination Week, which runs from the 27th of April to the 1st of May. Mr. Speaker, Africa Vaccination Week is a vital moment that calls us to reaffirm a simple but powerful truth we have always known. Immunization remains among the most effective, equitable, and transformative public health interventions at our disposal. Vaccines continue to save millions of lives each year. They shield our children, safeguard our communities, and secure the foundation of our collective future. Yet, despite this progress, persistent gaps endure, particularly in rural and underserved areas where barriers of access, awareness, and trust continue to impede full immunization coverage. Mr. Speaker, this reality places a clear and urgent responsibility upon us as Parliament. We must decisively strengthen health financing, invest in resilient cold chain systems, and guarantee the uninterrupted availability of vaccines across all the provinces of Zimbabwe. Equally, we must champion meaningful community engagement to counter misinformation and foster sustained public confidence in immunization programs. Mr. Speaker, in the context of Zimbabwe, immunization transcends the boundaries of health. It is a strategic development imperative. A fully immunized population is healthier, more productive, and better positioned to drive national growth and resilience. Let us therefore embrace Africa Vaccination Week and serve not merely as a commemoration but as a renewed call to action. We must commit with unwavering resolve to universal and equitable access to life-saving vaccines, ensuring that no child and no community remains behind. I thank you.
Thank you very much. The next honorable member to take the floor is Honorable Pinduka.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir, and good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise on a point of national interest with regards to the successful hosting of the 46th Independence Anniversary celebrations in Mapisa, Matowo District, Matabeleland South Province, presided over by His Excellency the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Zimbabwe Defense Forces, Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa, as a commitment and consistent advancement of the decentralization and the devolution policies towards the attainment of an upper middle-income society by 2030. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to commend the successful hosting of the 46th Independence Anniversary celebrations in Mapisa, Matobo, Matabeleland South Province, an event that not only honored our liberation history, but also demonstrated in practical and tangible terms the Second Republic's unwavering commitment to inclusive development, devolution, decentralization as enshrined in the national vision and policy framework. Mr. Speaker, commemorations held in Mapisa were more than a ceremonial gathering. They were a living reflection of the values and sacrifices of the liberation struggle, values of freedom, sovereignty, unity, and self-determination. Members of Parliament who attended the celebrations expressed profound appreciation for the manner in which the event rekindled national consciousness and reminded citizens, particularly the youth, of the price paid by independence and the responsibility we collectively bear to safeguard its gains. The spirit of unity and patriotism that characterized the celebrations speaks directly to the enduring relevance of our liberation heritage in shaping Zimbabwe's present and trajectory. Mr. Speaker, of equal significance is the deliberate and strategic decision by the Second Republic, under the leadership of His Excellency the President, Dr. Emerson Mnangagwa, to decentralize the national events of this magnitude. The hosting of Independence Day celebration in Mapisa follows a clear and consistent pattern that started in 2023 in Mount Darwin, Mashonaland Central Province, Buyera, Murambinda in Manicaland Province in 2024, Gokwe-Nembuzia in Midlands Province in 2025, and this year Mapisa in Matabeleland South Province. This rotational approach is not incidental. It is a practical expression of devolution and decentralization agenda, ensuring that development, national recognition, and infrastructure investment are equitably distributed across all provinces. It brings the state closer to the people and affirms that every region, regardless of its historical marginalization, is an integral part of Zimbabwe's developmental story. This approach finds strong alignment with the Constitution and policy framework guiding national development. Section 264 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, Mr. Speaker, provides for devolution of governmental powers and responsibilities to provincial and metropolitan councils, with the objective of promoting democratic participation, equitable resource distribution, and balanced regional development. Furthermore, the NDS-1 prioritizes devolution as a key enabler of inclusive growth, while the National Development Strategy 2 seeks to consolidate these gains by deepening rural industrialization, infrastructure development, and service delivery at local level. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, the successful hosting of the 46th Independence Celebration in Mapisa is a clear testament to the Second Republic's commitment to inclusive development, devolution, and national unity. It demonstrates that independence is not only commemorated through speeches and ceremonies, but through tangible improvements in the lives of citizens. It shows that development is being taken to the people where it matters most. As we reflect on this milestone, we are reminded that the true meaning of independence lies not only in the political freedom, but in the continuous effort to improve livelihoods, empower communities, and build a prosperous and equitable Zimbabwe for all. Thank you so very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the floor. I so submit.
Thank you very much. Acting Government Chief Whip. Is there a change in the order of our items?
The Minister would want to give us the presentation of the bill.
So we proceed to order number 1. Am I right?
Notice of presentation of bills. I thank you.
Yes, as order number 1. Thank you. Notice of presentation of bill number 1. The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Cultural Heritage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to give notice of presentation of the Police Amendment Bill. The bill seeks to amend the Police Act and to substitute Section 11 of the Prisons and Correctional Service Act, Chapter 7.21, to amend Section 22A of the Criminal Law Code and to amend sections 4 and 9 of the PVO Act, chapter 17.05, and to provide for matters connected with or incidental to the foregoing. I so submit, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The clerk will read the bill for the first time.
Police Amendment Bill, HB 11, 2025.
The bill is referred to the Parliamentary Legal Committee. Notice of motion number 2, the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Cultural Heritage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, I rise to present the National Drug, Substance Abuse Control and Enforcement Agency Bill. The bill, Mr. Speaker, provide for the establishment, functions and funds of a National Drug and Substance Abuse Control and Enforcement Agency, and to provide for matters connected with or incidental to the foregoing. I so submit, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The clerk will read the bill for the first time.
National Drugs, Substance Abuse Control and Enforcement Agency Bill, HB 12, 2025.
Thank you. The bill is referred to the Parliamentary Legal Committee.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes,
Yes.
I recognize you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that orders 1 to 15 be stood over until order number 16 has been disposed with. I thank you.
Objection? No objection. Notice of motion number 16, Honorable Shamu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, good afternoon, sir. I rise to move the motion standing in my name.
Who seconds? Who seconds?
I second the Honorable Speaker, sir.
Thank you. I now call upon Honorable Shamu to move his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to present the report of the Portfolio Committee on Foreign Affairs and International Trade on the 2020 first, second, and third quarter budget performance reports for the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade. And Mr. Speaker, sir, I will seek your indulgence and indeed the indulgence of this Honorable House for me to read the excerpts from the report and the table the full report for publication in the Hansard. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
You want to read
I
an
will-
executive summary? Is that what?
Within, yes, there are some figures and the tables which I might jump, Mr. Speaker, sir, because I will just be talking to numbers and figures that are also captured in my report.
You can skip those and indicate that they'll be published in the Hansard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'll go straight to the introduction. And the first part will all be included within the report in the Hansard, which captures the names of those who belong to our committee. Pursuant to Standing Order number 21, the Portfolio Committee on Foreign Affairs and International Trade analyzed the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Trade's expenditure administration for the first, second, and third quarter of 2025. The assessment, Mr. Speaker, centered on evaluating the ministry's progress in realizing the strategic objectives outlined in its institutional strategic plan. The primary aim being to identify strengths, challenges, and areas for improvement with a view to proffer palatable recommendations to enhance the ministry's capacity to discharge its mandate in fostering international relations, promoting trade, and advancing national interests on the global stage. I will jump the methodology, Mr. Speaker, and go on to paragraph 4.1 on committee's findings. The resource allocation, disbursements, and overall impact on the ministry budget performance. Mr. Speaker, in 2025, the ministry had a budget allocation of $3,989,780,000 Zimbabwe dollars, of which $1,770,336,285.45 was disbursed for the period under review, reflecting a disbursement rate of 60% and the resultant variance of 40%, which in actual terms is $1,221,336,285.45. Mr. Speaker, ideally, Treasury should have disbursed $2,992,335,000 Zimbabwe dollars. The accompanying table depicts the ideal budget allocations and actual disbursements for the 2025 first, second, and third quarter, demonstrating a clear picture of the Ministry of Finance, Economic Development, and Investment Promotion's funding trajectory in support of the ministry's mandate. I'll jump the table, go on to 4.1. Mr. Speaker, though Treasury could not wholly finance the ministry's targeted quarterly budgets, the committee commended the Treasury for funding Zimbabwe's missions through reimbursements to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, amounting to an average of $6.3 million per month. And we have below, Mr. Speaker, in our table, highlights that show what the ministry received from Treasury in support of Zimbabwe's 54 missions and related expenditure. Mr. Speaker, the committee expressed significant concern regarding the adverse impact of the state of diplomatic missions on the country's international image and global perception. Despite that, during the first and second quarter, the ministry could not undertake any construction or renovations at missions due to lack of funding, critically hampering efforts to upgrade diplomatic infrastructure. This, Mr. Speaker, resulted in the failure to meet the strategic target of renovating or constructing at least 3 properties per quarter, culminating in a shortfall of 5 properties by the deadline of 30th of September 2025. Notably, Mr. Speaker, the ministry received a mere $2 million in September 2025, allocated solely for ongoing renovations and maintenance, which allowed the completion of work at only 4 properties, namely the Staff House in Pretoria, the Chancery heating system in Geneva, the boardroom at the head office, and the Chancery in Cape Town. Mr. Speaker, the sluggish pace of infrastructure development severely undermines the country's diplomatic standing and international reputation. The substandard conditions of missions, exemplified by the embassy in Japan, projects an image of resources scarcity and neglect, which can inadvertently deter foreign investment and foster negative perceptions of the nation's capabilities. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, the stalled construction of the ambassador's residence, chancery, and staff accommodations in Abuja, which commenced in 2023 and is still at a rudimentary stage by late 2025, exemplifies this ongoing infrastructural deficit. Similar concerns, Mr. Speaker, extend to the renovation delays of official residencies in Berlin and London. Such infrastructural deficiencies not only diminish the country's diplomatic stature, but also undermine confidence among international partners, ultimately impairing Zimbabwe's global image and its ability to project soft power effectively. Turning to international subscriptions, the committee, Mr. Speaker, commended the Minister of Finance, Economic Development and Investment Promotion for disbursing 14,181,190.75 cents to meet financial obligations to international organizations. Consequently, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade cleared subscription arrears amounting to US dollars 3,147,772.73 cents, which recognizes the significant implications of unpaid subscriptions within the United Nations system and other international entities, as non-payment can lead to suspension of certain privileges. This may restrict member states to attending international meetings solely to satisfy quorum requirements, with their right to speak or to contribute substantively potentially revoked. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, the timely disbursements by the Treasury have been instrumental in ensuring the nation's continued active participation in global governance processes. On diaspora remittances, Mr. Speaker, we have figures that are shown in the table above, which delineates the substantial contributions of Zimbabweans in the diaspora to the national economy during the first 3 quarters of 2025. The committee, Mr. Speaker, observed with commendation the ministry's effective diaspora engagement strategies, which culminated in a notable surge in remittances from an annual total of US dollars 2.49 billion in 2024 to US dollars 1.8 billion by the 3rd quarter of 2025, thereby surpassing the projected annual target for the year. It is imperative, Mr. Speaker, to highlight that this figure equates to the total remittances recorded in 2023, which constituted approximately 16% of the country's total foreign currency inflows for that year. The upward trajectory in remittance flows underscores the pivotal role of the diaspora as a vital source of foreign exchange, directly contributing to the enhancement of the nation's foreign reserves and overall economic stability. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, the committee lauded the ministry for its responsiveness to recommendations made in its 2024 quarterly budget performance report, recognizing the indispensable role of the diaspora community in national development. The committee had proposed the establishment of e-consular services in the United Kingdom, home to an estimated 100,000 Zimbabweans, as a measure to facilitate easier access to requisite services and reduce the financial and logistical burdens associated with passport acquisition in Zimbabwe. The subsequent paragraphs elucidate the significant milestones achieved by the ministry in advancing this initiative, aimed at enhancing service delivery while fostering greater diaspora government engagement. The committee, Mr. Speaker, observed that the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, through its missions, provided 255,295 consular services to Zimbabweans abroad. This exceeded the target of 232,500 by 9%. Offering these services ensures timely support in emergencies, documentation, safety, and well-being. It also fosters a trust and goodwill between citizens and their home country. To improve access to the ministry, in collaboration with the Minister of Home Affairs and Cultural Heritage, planned to establish e-consular systems at 6 diplomatic missions, namely Johannesburg, Cape Town, London, Gaborone, Lusaka, and Washington. Mr. Speaker said the system was successfully installed at the Johannesburg Consulate, generating 177,728. I'll repeat that one, Mr. Speaker. Generating 177 million rand, 728,300 in consular service revenue since its establishment. Mr. Speaker said the committee commended the ministry for its progress in expanding the e-consular system to the remaining 5 jurisdictions. In London, all systems were configured and only are awaiting commissioning. In Cape Town, renovations for the e-passport platform were completed, with the equipment installation pending. In Gaborone, Mr. Speaker said renovations were approximately halfway through, with the platform anticipated to be operated by 30 June 2026. Meanwhile, Mr. Speaker said plans were underway in Zambia and Washington to establish the system by the 30th of September 2026. Now, turning, Mr. Speaker said, to international trade and investments. The ministry's strategic objective is to achieve US $14 billion in export revenue by 2030. According to the Zimbabwe National Statistics Agency, Zimstat, cumulative export earnings from January to November 2025 amounted to $8.57 billion US, reflecting a 27% increase from the $6.74 billion US recorded during the same period in 2024. The Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe statistics, Mr. Speaker, highlighted that by 30th of September 2025, export earnings amounted to $7.038 billion US. This upward trajectory, Mr. Speaker, played a significant role in substantially reducing the national trade deficit, which declined by 69% from $2.1 billion in 2024 to $644 million in 2025. Mr. Speaker said the committee observed that the export sector exhibited strong momentum, representing a notable advancement in the country's transition towards an export-led economy. The growth in earnings underscores the alignment of current performance with the long-term strategic goal. In support of the export sector, Mr. Speaker said, Zimtrade established 6 new export thematic clusters out of the initial target of 8 for the year. These clusters, Mr. Speaker said, comprise smallholder farmers, SMEs, and individual exporters, organized and capacitated to facilitate exports. Additionally, Mr. Speaker said, Zimtrade planned to construct an in-market warehouse in Zambia and a horticulture aggregation center at Midland State University in Gweru, with estimated costs of US $1,195,589 and $440,000 US respectively. However, Mr. Speaker said the plans were derailed by the reversal of 20 million ZiG from the 64 million ZiG grant paid to Zimtrade by Treasury due to Treasury's failure to provide cash support for it. Consequently, Mr. Speaker said, Zimtrade only managed to acquire a 5,000 square meter plot of land at Kasumbalesa in Zambia for the construction of a warehouse facility, and it developed a conceptual plan for the aggregation center. I will now turn, Mr. Speaker, to the Zimbabwe Foreign Services Institute. And Mr. Speaker, for your information, this morning we spent the whole morning with the Board of Governors at the Institute, trying to see exactly what is going on at that very important national program. The Zimbabwe Foreign Services Institute, Mr. Speaker, experienced significant financial constraints that hindered the full realization of its operational objectives. Despite being allocated a budget of $97,560,000 ZIG by Treasury. Compensation of employees took 8 million. In operations took 89,560 million. The institution only received a disbursement of 10 million ZIG as of 30 September 2025. This translates, Mr. Speaker, to a mere 13% utilization of the total allocated funds. The committee, therefore, Mr. Speaker, raised concern on the adverse impact of erratic disbursement of funds on the institution's capacity to execute its mandate. The institute has an authorized staff establishment of 37 personnel. However, due to financial constraints, it only managed to recruit 7 staff members. The staffing shortfall has inevitably affected operational efficiency and the institute's ability to discharge its core mandate of training and diplomatic capacity building. Moreover, Mr. Speaker, infrastructural constraints have further compounded these challenges, as the existing 6 offices are insufficient to accommodate the current staff complement, forcing the institute to consider renting additional office space at an estimated monthly cost of $4,000, which is approximately 105,000 ZIG. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, the lack of funds has prevented the institute from securing these rental spaces as well. Mr. Speaker, in addition to infrastructural and staffing setbacks, the institute faced critical mobility and logistical challenges due to lack of funds for procurement of vehicles since its inception in July 2023. The unavailability of official vehicles has severely restricted operational mobility, affecting the delivery of training programs, official engagements, and administrative functions. Furthermore, financial constraints have impeded the procurement of essential furniture, equipment, communication tools such as laptops and cell phones for staff and board members, and further hampering effective and efficient operations. Mr. Speaker, the committee observed with concern that although there is sufficient land at the premises to facilitate the construction of offices, lecture halls, kitchens, and other essential facilities, no developmental activities were undertaken due to persistent lack of funding. This situation has resulted in a suboptimal working environment and a limited capacity for hosting training programs, thereby undermining the Institute's strategic objectives of enhancing diplomatic proficiency. We learned this morning, Mr. Speaker, that they have in their kitty about $100,000 that was donated by some organization, and we recommended that they do not only keep the money, but that they should think of making use of that money for some projects rather than just keeping it in their bank account without making use of the money, as it loses value every day. On international tourism, Mr. Speaker, in an effort to enhance the country's global visibility, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade facilitated international tourism campaigns, achieving all targeted objectives for the first 3 quarters of 2025. These initiatives have proved remarkably effective, Mr. Speaker, with the Brand Zimbabwe campaign significantly boosting tourist arrivals. Specifically, from January to September 2025, tourist figures surged to 945,212, representing an almost 0.2% decline compared to the entire 2024 figure of 947,446. This near miss underscores the campaign's success in sustaining high levels of international interest. The committee, Mr. Speaker, commended the ministry for reaching this notable milestone, recognizing the strategic impact of their efforts in maintaining Zimbabwe's competitive position in the global tourism market. Now I'll turn, Mr. Speaker, to our recommendations. The committee recommends that the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade should ensure that refurbishment or construction works at missions such as Berlin, London, and Abuja are completed by the 31st of December 2026. Secondly, that the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, Mr. Speaker, working in collaboration with the Minister of Home Affairs and Cultural Heritage should establish and operationalize e-consular systems in Lusaka, Cape Town, Gaborone, Washington, D.C., and the United Kingdom by the 31st of December 2026. And that they must improve operational efficiency and capacity at the Zimbabwe Foreign Services Institute and Zimtrade. That the Minister of Finance and Economic Development and Investment Promotion should therefore timeously disburse the budgeted grants for the two institutions by the 31st of December 2026. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, we say that despite the notable achievements, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade faced significant challenges stemming from inadequate resource disbursements, infrastructural deficits, and operational constraints that undermine its capacity to realize its objectives. Therefore, to enhance operational effectiveness, Mr. Speaker, Treasury should timeously disburse the budgeted funds to support strategic infrastructure upgrades, bolster diplomatic capacity, and sustain economic and global engagement efforts. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Shamu. Now, just to remind you, there are two honorable members on my right. I don't know what they are eating. And it doesn't help you to cover your mouth because the jaws show that you are eating something. This is against decorum of Parliament. Please, if you want to eat something, you can leave the house and go and eat whatever you want to eat outside the house. The question before the House is a motion by the Honorable Shamu that this House considers and adopts the report of the Portfolio Committee on Foreign Affairs and International Trade. And first, second, and third quarter budget performance reports from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Trade. Is there any debate? Honorable S. Moyo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I stand to second the report on the first, second, third budget performance. Report for the Minister of Foreign Affairs tabled by Honorable Shamu. I will start with the committee findings, Honorable Speaker, on resource allocation, disbursement, and overall impact on the ministry's budget performance. The ministry had a budget allocation which the Treasury disbursed 60% with a variance of 40%. The Treasury should have disbursed the targeted quarterly budget. The variances compromised the ministry's performance. The committee commended the Treasury for funding the Zimbabwe's mission, though through reimbursement to the Ministry of Affairs of 6.3 million per month, though the Treasury could not wholly finance the ministry's targeted quarterly budget. Honorable Speaker, the impact of the disbursed financial resource on the ministry's project and program. Capital projects. The ministry could not renovate or do any constructions at the missions, critically hampering the efforts to upgrade the diplomatic structures. Hence, it undermines the country's diplomatic standing and the international reputation, Honorable Speaker. I'll give the example, renovation delays of official residence in Berlin and London. Such infrastructure deficiencies not only diminishing the country, but undermine confidence among international partners. The committee commended the Ministry of Finance dispersing international subscriptions, clearing the arrears. I will touch also again on the Zimbabwe Foreign Service Institute. The committee raised concerns on the disbursement of the funds to the institute, especially the institute's capacity to execute its mandate. Due to financial constraints, it cannot employ or recruit enough staff. The staff shortfall has affected the operations efficiency and the institute's ability to discharge its core mandate of training and diplomatic capacity building, and the offices are insufficient to accommodate the current staff complement. Honorable Speaker. Recommendations. Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Chair, Honorable Sham, has already mentioned the committee recommendations, so I stand to second the recommendations. Thank you, Speaker. I submit.
Thank you very much, Honorable Moyo. I have a list here of those members that would like to debate on the motion. The next honorable member is Honorable L. Munemo. Honorable Munemo. Appears not to be there. Honorable Guni. Honorable Guni. Now the whips, you should line up your members who must speak. Where is Honorable? That's Honorable Mguni.
I'm here, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Yes, please proceed.
Lichwana njani, Mr. Speaker.
Shonile.
Ngiyabonga ukunika ithuba lokuthi ngikhulume ngeripoti elethwe edalele parliament ngu-chairperson we-portfolio ye-foreign affairs.
Ngaxolisa ncane. Honorable Mandiwanzira approached the chair.
Ngiyabonga, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, udaba olulethwe nguchair lapha eParliament ole report le foreign affairs luqhakatheke kakhulu ngoba abantu bethu ikakhulu laba abasimele kwamanye amazwe kumele balethe ubuso belizwe lethu. Kumele nxa beluletha ubuso belizwe lethu, Mr. Speaker, kumele bahlale ezindlini ezikhanyayo. Izindlu nje zakhona njalo kumele zibe zingezethu, sizithengile kumbe sizakhile, ngoba kanengi bayabhadala irent. Ukubhadala irent ezindlini lezi kuthatha imali enkulu kakhulu elizweni lethu leZimbabwe, Mr. Speaker. Njalo abanengi bakhona labo bungani izimota abahamba ngazo sezizindala kakhulu. Besicela ukuthi uMinister of Finance nxa enika imali akhiphe imali labo bahambe ngezimota ezikhanyayo ukuthi ngabantu abanika ubuso wokuthi ilizwe lethu lime njani. Sisesikhathini esithi thina sifuna ukuthi sibuyele ekuhlanganeni lamanye amazwe, especially endabeni lezi zokuthengiselana ezi trade. Lokho kuthi ukuthi nxa sikwenza Mr Speaker kumele sibuye sigqoke ubuso obukhanyayo ukuthi ilizwe lethu limqotho ngendlela esifuna libe yilo lona. So siyacela ukuthi uMinister of Finance ekunikeni izimali azinike ngesikhathi futhi angaphuzi ngoba okuhlupha ikhona ukuthi nxa uMinister of Finance ekhipha izimali Mr Speaker ziyaphuza akwenzela ukuthi abantu laba ema-ministries angabe esasebenza ngobuqotho. I-report le lami ngiyayisekela kakhulu Mr Speaker ngawona la amazwi amalutshana ngisithi siyacela sibili ukuthi abantu abasemazweni i-foreign diplomacy zethu zikhangelwe zigcine kuhle. Bese kusithi-ke labo iqembu leli esihambisa libona namhle ekuseni eliyilo mele lifundise abantu ngokuthi kwenziwa njani nxa usamukela kumbe izivakashi kumbe nxa usiyacela uzwanano lamanye amazwe kumele uziphathe njani. Besicela ukuthi bakhuliswe labo ngendlela enhle ngoba indawo abakiyo bathe bafuna ukwakha isikolo esingani siyakhangeleka ukuthi lathi amanye amazwe nxa ebuya ezozuza ulwazi khona phana Mr Speaker afice indawo yakhona inhle ibukeka injalo lama standard aphezulu. Kodwa ke bathi bona okuhluphayo yiyo imali engeneliyo. Bazuzile nje labo imbijana yemali kodwa bathi imali yakhona ayeneli. So besicela ukuthi uMinister of Finance abangezelele kukhonokho kuyimbijana abalakho ukwenzela ukuthi bakhe labo isikolo njalo noma besakhile isikolo ukuthi bavulele ukuthi sitraine kakhulu abantu bamanye amazwe besifuna ukuthi kube lolwazi lwama ICT abantu labo benzwe lokhana okuthiwa ngama virtual. Hayi khona ukuthi babuye kuphela ngapha ngoba lakho ukuza ngapha eZimbabwe kuyabe kufuna imali kodwa kungaba lula ukuthi sibafundise ngegagasi emoyeni. Ngisithi hayi ireport le ngiyayisekela kakhulu Mr Speaker ngiyabonga.
Siyabonga. Honorable Munemo, I believe you are in now. Yes. Switch on your mic, please. Okay. Please proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, sir. My apologies. As I was following up on the report that was given by Honorable Shamu on the ministry's report on the first and third quarter, I cited challenges, Honorable Speaker, of under-financing of its services. And these challenges, Honorable Speaker, they may affect the brand Zimbabwe because the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is the very ministry that will market our brand Zimbabwe globally. So I've cited some major challenges of being underfinanced, which may rise from maybe say degradation of diplomatic infrastructure. And from the report, there are some infrastructure that are not up to date in London. The limited funds will result in the inability to renovate or construct chancelleries and embassies, leading to dilapidated properties that do not properly represent the country. Looking on operational bottlenecks, insufficient funding impacts day-to-day operations, Honorable Speaker, including lack of fuel, transport, and ICT support, which causes service delivery bottlenecks. There is also an inability to protect citizens. Underfunded embassies are often unable to assist globally scattered citizens, even in in emergency situations. There is also a challenge of failure to attract investment because embassies are crucial for attracting foreign direct investment, FDIs, and diaspora investments. Underfinancing severely limits the re-engagement and economic diplomacy efforts of the country. Stressing also on the missed procurement targets, the ministries often fail to meet targets for purchasing vehicles and equipment for missions, hindering the mobility and efficiency of diplomatic staff. This underfunding that is seen in the ministry, it also affects the welfare issues for personnel. Lack of funds causes non-payment of crucial expenses for staff abroad, including living expenses, healthcare, and school fees, resulting in severe scenarios like evictions or lockouts. So there is also erosion of value if we underfinance this ministry. Late disbursements of funds combined with inflation can severely diminish the purchase power of the ministry's budget. So, in a nutshell, Honorable Speaker, I would like to urge our Ministry of Finance to prioritize this Ministry of Foreign Affairs so that it will enable the work plan for the ministry to carry on so that it will represent the citizens globally. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The next Honorable Member to take the floor is Honorable Chidua.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity to debate on the report that has been presented by the chairperson of the committee for Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Trade. Honorable Speaker, from the presentation that has been done by the chairperson, we have noted that the expected budget releases, the budget releases that were supposed to be done by Treasury, they were not done as per expectation. The disbursements, they are around 62%. And in terms of the strategic objectives of the ministry, they've got quite a number of programs. And most of these programs, they require funding for them to be realized. So the implementation of the ministry's programs, the realization of the 100-day cycle in terms of the cabinet expectations, all these, they require funding. And where the ministry is not well funded, obviously this is going to affect the implementation of the programs. But if I am to zero in on the releases that were done, the funding that was done is also assisting the ministry in diplomatic capacity and representation. As a country, we have got diplomatic representation in a number of countries, and where the funding has been released, this is assisting us in terms of advocacy, in terms of our representation at SADC level, East African Community, African Union. We have seen Zimbabwe being represented at all these forums. Then the other critical arm of the ministry is that on trade promotion and investment facilitation. Our focus as a country is on economic diplomacy. And economic diplomacy requires us to engage with the investors, requires us to engage with the countries that would want to forge economic diplomatic ties with us as a country. So it is very critical that we sponsor our investment trade desks. And I would want to thank the Minister of Finance for the releases that they have done, which are assisting, especially in having functional trade investment desks. It is also critical, especially now, that we need marketing intelligence. And as a country, we have seen that we are strong in minerals, we are strong in agriculture, but what we are lacking at the moment is market intelligence, because we would want to benefit the most from the resources that we have. And I'm sure the resources that have been released thus far are also assisting in making sure that Zimbabwe deploys its market intelligence so that the country can benefit the most. And it is also important that we target our exports. We have seen that the global market, those without the products are determining the prices. And it is important that as a player in the global market, there are markets where we should also determine the price. I can give an example of the blueberries. At the moment, Zimbabwe is the largest exporter of blueberries in Africa. And I'm sure as the market leader, we should be able to determine the price. And we are also looking at the lithium that we have. We should be able to determine the price. And this, if we look at the announcement that was done by Zimbabwe to say we are not going to export raw lithium, it affected the global markets. Just the announcement effects. And I'm sure with the market intelligence, it should also assist us in terms of targeting our exports. And on trade missions, I also want to commend the government for the funding that was released. It also supports the trade mission that we have globally. And then on consular services and citizens, when our citizens are outside there, they need full representation. They need to get the services that they are expecting to get from the consular services. And these especially are to do with the visa processing and also the smoother issuance and application of passports. And the budget that was released also assists in that regard. But let me transition, Honorable Speaker, on the underfunding. Our consular missions, they are the face of the country. When our embassies are providing services out there, they represent the whole country. And where funding is not adequate, this does not present the actual face of the country. On diplomatic capacity, there are countries where we have seen reports that there are shortfalls in terms of staff. And staffing levels are very critical when it comes to representation. And fewer diplomats and fewer support staff may not augur well when it comes to our representations at international level. So this then affects our ability to monitor global movement that I've mentioned, especially on market intelligence. Then on trade facilitation, again, fewer members, fewer staff, fewer trade missions affects our ability to effectively trade, so that as a country we can get the best from the products, the services that we offer as a country. Then another critical issue on multilateral engagements. We are a member and belong to bodies like SADC, African Union, COMESA, United Nations. And if we don't have enough budgets, this also weakens our influence in those regional and international bodies. And there is need to make sure that as a country, we fully fund a Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Affairs so that they are in a position to represent us as a country at those multilateral levels. And on diaspora, it is very critical for Zimbabwe to continuously engage the diaspora. Why it is important? We have seen countries like Philippines, Ethiopia, benefiting from the diaspora. The construction of the largest dam in Africa, which is in Ethiopia now, was funded by the diaspora bonds. And as a country, we are also saying we can engage our diaspora. They can assist us, especially in terms of diaspora investments. And it is critical that we engage them, we know what they want, and also try to make sure that we localize their expectations. And this can only be done when our Ministry of Foreign Affairs has got a healthy budget. So as I conclude, Honorable Speaker, the economic growth and export performance of our country is dependent on the extent to which we are competitive as a country. And it requires a strong Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, since they represent us at that level. So I fully support the report as presented by the chairperson of the committee, that there is need for Treasury to prioritize budget releases for the ministry so that the ministry is in a position to represent us at international and multilateral level. I so submit, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chidua. Honorable Eni Mangondo.
Thank you, Honorable Madam Speaker, ma'am. Good afternoon. I rise to support the report that was presented by the chairman of the Portfolio Committee on Foreign Affairs and International Trade, and seconded by Honorable Moyo, for the first, second, and third quarter budget performance report for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for the year 2025. Honorable Speaker, ma'am, I would like to start by commending the Minister of Finance for being able to disburse funds which enabled the ministry to clear the legacy debts that the ministry had, especially in terms of the salary arrears for their staff, both the foreign service officers as well as the local recruited staff. I would also like to commend the ministry for having, the Minister of Finance that is, for having been able to adjust the salaries of local recruited staff, which had made it very difficult for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and its missions to retain the local recruited staff. So the Ministry of Finance has positively responded to the submissions which have been made by the Committee on Foreign Affairs at various fora, including the pre-budget seminar. So for that reason, I think as Parliament, we need to commend the ministry to keep on doing good and doing better, especially for our foreign missions, which act as the face of the Republic of Zimbabwe in various countries that we are represented. However, Madam Speaker, ma'am, I would like to raise concern with regards to the grants that were appropriated by this House to the Zimbabwe Foreign Service Institute as well as to Zimtrade. Honorable Speaker, ma'am, with respect to Zimtrade, an amount of 20 million ZiG was reversed when it had already been allocated. That created a situation where Zimtrade was not able to acquire the ideal stand that was required for purposes of our exhibition at Osaka. The 10% disbursement that was given to Zimbabwe Foreign Service Institute was a tiny amount of money compared to what had been appropriated by way of a grant. Madam Speaker, you will notice that most grants when appropriated by this Parliament are disbursed either in full at once or they're disbursed periodically. It could be quarterly, it could be monthly, it could be biannually. But in the case of the Zimbabwe Foreign Service Institute, Madam Speaker, for the whole financial year of 2025, Treasury only disbursed 10%, which in actual fact left the institute handicapped. They could not recruit staff because out of an establishment of 37 approved members of staff on the establishment, the institute only has 7 people in posts. And naturally, as a new institute, there's very little that you can do with only 7 members of staff. And as a new institute, by the way, Honorable Speaker, ma'am, you wish to know that the institute was established just about 4 years ago. As a new institution, it requires a lot of support from government. This is an institution that is going to play a very critical role in terms of training our diplomats to become what the country expects of them in terms of pursuing economic diplomacy. The Foreign Service Institute, Madam Speaker, ma'am, is doing a great job even in terms of training parliamentarians. As you are aware, just last month, several of the members of this August House were in Bulawayo, where they were being trained by the Foreign Service Institute on aspects to do with deportment, protocol, etiquette, and so forth. The Foreign Service Institute provides those services to other MDAs as well as to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It's tasked with the responsibility for taking those who would have been earmarked for diplomatic training through the National Diplomatic Training course. But as long as they're not being funded adequately, it becomes very difficult for the ministry for the institute to discharge its responsibilities. The institute has been referred to by the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, is housed in a former guest house of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Harare. Those premises, Madam Speaker, ma'am, make it almost impossible for the institute to discharge its functions because they are really housed in a matchbox, such that any foreign delegations, any foreign countries that may want to send their people for training will find it very unattractive when the institute is housed at such a small building. So my recommendations, and I'm sure the chairperson has already made or alluded to the recommendations of the committee, are to say, Honorable Speaker, Ma'am, Minister of Finance should disburse the grants that would have been appropriated by this House in full. Given the challenges of cash flows, they can then determine how to disburse, whether it is quarterly or biannually. But at the end of the financial year, before the end of the financial year, what would have been appropriated by this August House must be disbursed in full to those two institutes under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, namely the Foreign Service Institute and Zimtret. That's my first recommendation. The second recommendation, Madam Speaker, Ma'am, is that I think the Ministry of Foreign Affairs should consider finding better premises for the Foreign Service Institute. Premises that are commensurate with the work that are expected to do, and premises that are commensurate with the prestigious nature under which the Institute of Foreign Affairs or the Zimbabwe Institute of Foreign Service is expected. So appropriate premises which could either be bought as existing or preferably that could be specifically designed and constructed for the Zimbabwe Foreign Service Institute. Zimbabwe will always be here. Zimbabwe will always be posting diplomats to other countries. Zimbabwe will always have a parliament that needs to be trained. So let's give the Zimbabwe Foreign Service Institute the support it deserves. I thank you, Honorable Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mangondo. Next to take the floor is Honorable V. Chitime.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Good afternoon. I rise to contribute to the debate on the 2025 first, second, and third quarter budget performance report for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Trade. From the outset, Honorable Speaker, I want to acknowledge the efforts made by the Ministry despite the difficult operating environment. There are clear positives that we must recognize. For example, diaspora remittances reached around US 1.8 billion by the third quarter, which shows the confidence Zimbabweans abroad have in contributing to our economy. In addition, Honorable Speaker, export earnings have increased significantly and the trade deficit has gone down. This is a sign that our engagement with the international community is beginning to yield results. Honorable Speaker, the Ministry also performed well in consular services, even exceeding its targets. This shows commitment to serving Zimbabweans living abroad. The introduction of e-consular services, especially in Johannesburg, is a step in the right direction and must be expanded. However, while we appreciate these achievements, we cannot ignore the serious challenges highlighted in the report. The biggest issue is underfunding. Only 60% of the allocated budget was disbursed. This is not just a number. It has real consequences. It means projects are not completed, services are delayed, and the ministry cannot fully carry out its mandate. Honorable Speaker, the state of our diplomatic missions is worrying. Some of our embassies and properties are in poor condition, and this affects how Zimbabwe is perceived internationally. If we want to attract investment and building strong relations, we must present ourselves in a dignified and professional manner. Delays in completing projects in places like Abuja, Berlin, and London are therefore unacceptable. The situation of the Zimbabwe Foreign Services Institute is also concerning. With only a small portion of its budget released, the institute cannot recruit enough staff, cannot secure proper office space, and cannot even acquire basic equipment. This weakens our capacity to train diplomats and represent Zimbabwe effectively on the global stage. Furthermore, Honorable Speaker, some trade-related projects have stalled due to funding challenges. This undermines our goal of becoming an export-led economy. Honorable Speaker, funding must not be allocated on paper. It must be released on time. Without that, even the best plans will fail. In light of these issues, I support the committee's recommendations. Government must prioritize the timely disbursement of funds. Infrastructure at our missions must be improved urgently. The rollout of e-consular services must be accelerated, and institutions like the Foreign Services Institute must be properly funded to function effectively. In conclusion, Honorable Speaker, the Ministry has shown potential and achieved some important milestones, but without adequate and timely financial support, its performance will remain limited. If we are serious about strengthening our international relations, promoting trade, and improving Zimbabwe's image globally, then we must match our ambitions with the necessary resources. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chitimbe. I call upon Honorable Shamu to wind up the report.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, ma'am, and a very good afternoon to you. Thank you, Madam Speaker, ma'am. Madam Speaker, ma'am, I would like to thank all the honorable members who have contributed to the debate on the first, second, and third quarter budget performance report of the Portfolio Committee on Foreign Affairs and International Trade, as it plays its oversight role on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Trade. Madam Speaker, ma'am, I would like to take this opportunity on behalf of the Portfolio Committee on Foreign Affairs and International
Order,
Trade.
Honorable Shamu. I am being advised that the Minister must respond to the report first before you wind up. Thank you.
Thank you. If you could maybe seek the indulgence of this House through you, Madam Speaker, ma'am, that if that message could be delivered to the Minister so that the response is made quickly.
That will be done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Notice of motion number 22, Honorable W. Maposa, standing in for Honorable Mateo.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I move that report in my name.
Who seconds?
I second. I'm sure you are here.
Thank you, Honorable Mateo.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker, Madam. I give a report on the Public Accounts Committee on the audited financial statement for the Agricultural and Rural Development Authority in the Auditor's General Report on State-Owned Enterprise and Parastatal for the year end 31 December 2023. Honorable Speaker, ma'am, in the introduction, the Public Accounts Committee analyzed and the Agriculture and Rural Development Authority, ADA, in light of the findings of the Auditor General on state-owned and parastatal accounts for the year ended December 31, 2023. The Auditor General issued a qualified audit opinion for ADA financial statement for the years 2021 and 22, highlighting several areas of concern that necessitated an analysis by the PAC. This report aimed to provide insight into the financial statement of the ADA with regards to the issues raised in the Audit General Report to ensure the better government and accountability. Honorable Speaker, Madam, objectives of the inquiry. The key objective of the inquiry were to scrutinize issues raised in the Audit General's report, to assess status of the implementation of recommendation made by the Auditor General and challenges faced by the ADA in doing so, and to perform a recommendation to address the issues raised in the General Auditor's report. Methodology, Honorable Speaker, Madam. The committee conducted an oral evidence session with the official from the authority to address the issues raised in the Audit General's report. The committee held a workshop on the analysis of the Auditor General's report for the financial year ended 2023 from 14 to 17 March 2025 at Rainbow Hotel in Bulawayo. Committee findings, Honorable Speaker, Madam. Valuation of properties, plant and equipment. Honorable Speaker, Madam, the Auditor General noted that the audit did not review the residual values and useful lives of assets, as well as not carrying out imperable assessment. In addition, some assets in the register could not be physically verified. The committee was informed that the valuation of the authority's assets was being carried out once every 2 years, taking into consideration the cost of conducting valuation exercise and given the large size of its assets. However, the Director of Finance, Mr. Ndoro, submitted that the following observation by the Auditor General: the authority subsequently did evaluation for the financial year ended 31 December 2023. For the subsequent reports period, valuation were being done in the line with the International Public Sector Accounts Standards, which is IPSAS, which allows management to undertake director's valuation. He clarifies that a full assets valuation and implementation assets was performed in 2023. Honorable Speaker, Madam, the Director of Finance articulated that although disposal of furniture and equipment had initially been approved by the board in 2020, COVID lockdown delayed the execution. The board later rectified the process and the assets were successfully disposed of. The committee further learned that assets verification was last completed in 2023 and that ADA was actively conducting assets verification and coordinating exercise for the 2024 audit. Honorable Speaker, Madam, committee observations. While a full valuation and implementation assets was performed in 2023, the committee noted with concern that at the time of audit, the authority had not revised the residential values of useful lives of its assets, nor had it conducted imperable assets as required by application public sector accounting and standards. Additionally, some assets listed in the register could not be physically verified, indicating weak internal controls of assets, safeguarding and potential risk of misuses. Honorable Speaker, Madam, committee recommendations. The authority should initiate a formal assets management framework that assures regular review of assets, residual values, useful lives, and impatient in according with the IPSAS. The authority should provide the Auditor General with a report of the 2023 evaluation and impatient rest documentation of 2020 to 2023 disposal assets and the result of 2024 assets verification and coordination exercise by 30 September 2026. It has to be done. Honorable Speaker, Madam, in conclusion, the Public Accounts Committee inquires into others' financial practice, highlighted persistent weakness in assets management, particularly the lack of timely valuation, impatient assets, and assets verification. While the authority has made some efforts to align with IPSAS by undertaking a comprehensive evaluation in 2023, planning further corrective action, the committee remains concerned about historically compliance lapses and weak internal controls to strengthen government and accountability. The committee recommends institutionalizing a robust assets management framework and timely submission of documentation related to assets and disposal. These steps are entitled to ensure transparent and financial integrity within other Honorable Speaker, Madam. So I submit on this report.
Thank you, Honorable Maposa. The question before the House is a motion by Honorable Maposa that this House considers and adopts the report of the Public Accounts Committee on the audited financial statements for the Agricultural and Rural Development Authority, ADA, in the Auditor's General's report on state-owned enterprises for the year ended 31st December 2023, SC 42-2025. Is there any debate? Honorable Mushoriwa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to second this report that has been presented by Honorable Maposa in respect to the accounts of ADA for the year ended 2021 and 2022 that were included in the Auditor General's report of 2023. First and foremost, I stand to concur and to support what the acting chair of public accounts, Honorable Maposa, has actually presented, and also to buttress the fact that if you analyze the report by the Auditor General, the first thing that is key and crucial is that the ADA accounts that were being audited by the Auditor General were for 2021 and 2022, implying that there's also been a lag in terms of submissions of the financial reports to the Auditor General. Then if you then check ADA as an institution, is an institution that is supposed to play a pivotal role towards rural development in this country, and generally it is supposed to do a lot of positive developments towards the economical trajectory of this country. But the Auditor General, in year report on the 2 years that are subject of debate, issued a qualified opinion. In other words, the Auditor General could not sanction the accuracy of the financial report of ADA. Key findings by the Auditor General included failure by ADA to properly value its assets. And Madam Speaker, if an entity fails to do proper valuation of its assets, there is a potential risk that as a nation and also this entity may actually end up losing some of its assets, and some of the assets may actually be disposed at a very low value, primarily because of poor valuation report by the management. But what is fundamental, Madam Speaker, is that, as you may be aware, our road to Ipsas, which was running from 2021 to 2025, it was mandatory for every state entity, and ADA being one of the biggest, to ensure that all the assets of the entity are well documented. Because without documenting every asset of the organization, it is difficult, Madam Speaker, for any entity to migrate from the cash accounting system that we have been doing as a country to the accrual under the Ipsas framework. So that becomes a problem. So ADA therefore poses a risk, and there's a potential challenge that we may actually end up that were not properly documented. So it is the core of the Public Accounts Committee, Madam Speaker, that more needs to be done to ensure that accountability, transparency is observed within ADA. And secondly, tied to that, Madam Speaker, it is also the question, even in respect to personnel within ADA, the accounting officer, the head of the accounting, to find out whether these people have got what it takes to take this important institution a step further, and which could then end up helping in the growth of the economy. We talk of NDS1, which lapsed and which timed about the timing of the 2021 and the 2022 report. If you check, more was expected from ADA in terms of its contribution towards the economy under NDS1. And if you then check, more is still expected under NDS2. But you cannot expect anything as long as there is no proper foundation in an organization. And the proper foundation is based on proper accounting. If there's no proper accounting, you cannot plan anything. If you cannot do a simple thing like valuation of your assets, it becomes a problem. And it's even worse, Madam Speaker, to also note that even when it comes to debtors of ADA, because of the chaos that exists within the management framework of ADA, it becomes even difficult to follow up even if there are any bad debts or any bad debtors of ADA. So this is the reason why it is crucial and important that this August House support the call by the Auditor General's finding, which has been submitted by the Public Accounts Committee, that we need as a House to support this report and ensure that in future, especially when we look into their reports for the 2024 and 2025, whether we'll be in a position to see that things are actually moving up. The current trajectory, Madam Speaker, as I close, is that because we are now moving into IPSAS, what IPSAS says, because what we have been doing over the years, we have been doing what is called cash accounting. We would say that we received $30, and then out of the $30, we managed to pay wages for $5, we paid machinery for this amount, the balance is this. And sometimes we would then forget that we still owe certain people, and all the debts that we are accruing were not being included in our accounts. Not only that, the other problem with the cash accounting is that we were not coming up with what is called a financial statement of position or a balance sheet of an organization. We were just basically relying more on our income statement. And this now requires that every asset under IPSAS, every asset of government, in any state enterprise, need to be evaluated. We need to keep it track to avoid a situation where we have had in the past where certain people hide certain assets of organizations, hoping that with the time people will forget and they'll end up personalizing assets of government. That chapter, Madam Speaker, is coming to an end, and this is the reason why it is crucial that as Parliament we support this report as we work towards IPSAS and make sure that ADA adheres to the IPSAS requirements. I so thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Mshoriwa. Honorable Mazwanyika.
So, Madam Chair, I was not on the list to debate on this. I wanted to debate on GMP.
So it means there must be a technical error there in terms of administrative writing by the Chief Whip.
Okay, Honorable Kangausaru.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, ma'am, and greetings from Hurungwe. I rise to contribute to this debate on the report of the Public Accounts Committee on the audited financial statements of the Agricultural Rural Development Authority, ADA. Madam Speaker, ma'am, I commend the committee for its thorough work. A report of this nature are important because they show whether public institutions are managing our resources with the seriousness that the people of Zimbabwe expect. Madam Speaker, ma'am, this report is not just a mere about figures. It is about control, it is about responsibility and the proper use of national assets. The committee highlight that ADA did not adequately review assets values, assess impairment, and in some cases could not physically verify assets. This raises a fundamental concern. An institution cannot effectively perform its mandate if it does not have a full control and a visibility over its assets. ADA is central to agriculture, irrigation, and rural livelihood. Weak assets management therefore affects productivity, planning, and service delivery. The failure to physically verify some assets in particular is a particular concern. It creates a situation where public resources may be lost, misused, or remain unaccounted for without detection. This is how value is quietly eroded within public institutions. Madam Speaker, ma'am, the report also shows that the corrective action was taken only after concern was raised by the Auditor General. This points to a culture where actions follows audit, instead of system ensuring compliance at all times. Public institutions must not wait to be corrected. They must operate within with built-in accountability and discipline. These issues reflect weakness in systems. There is therefore need for stronger internal control, consistent monitoring, and a clear responsibility within management. I support the recommendation for a structured asset management framework aligned with international public sector accounting systems. This must be supported by accurate records and regular interval verification processes. Madam Speaker, ma'am, the matter goes beyond ADA. It speaks how seriously we treat public resources as a country. Agriculture remains central to our development. But without accountability, even well-resourced institutions will fail to deliver, Madam Speaker. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, ma'am, I support this report and this recommendation, and ADA must urgently strengthen its system and ensure full accountability over its asset. Public resources must always be accounted for. It must be protected and used for the benefit of our people. So I submit. Thank you, Madam Speaker, ma'am.
Thank you, Honorable Kangausaru. Honorable Mashishi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for granting me the opportunity to debate on the public accounts report on ADA for the year 2023. We are all aware that ADA plays a pivotal role in promoting agricultural development through the implementation of a vibrant schemes aimed at reducing poverty, particularly in rural areas. This positions ADA as a core institution in accelerating the achievement of Vision 2030 and Sustainable Development Goal number 1 of eradicating poverty. As highlighted by the chairperson, the The institution received a qualified audit opinion. Among the issues raised in the Auditor General's report were non-compliance with the International Accounting Standards, Accounting Standard 21, the effects of changes in foreign exchange rates and the International Accounting Standard financial reporting in hyperinflation economics. I wish to commend the Second Republic for the introduction of the ZiG currency, which has brought stability to both the inflation rate and the exchange rate. This development means institutions will now face fewer challenges in financial reporting, particularly with the International Accounting Standards 21 and Accounting Standards 29, which previously contributed to qualified audit opinions. Turning to another critical issue raised by the chairperson, asset valuation remains a cornerstone of financial accountability and economic governance, especially for the state-owned enterprises such as ADA. The report noted that ADA had not consistently reviewed the residual values or useful lives of its assets, nor conducted impairment assessments. This creates risks of mismanagement and weakens internal controls. Proper asset valuation ensures transparency in the use of public funds, public resources, without it other risks overstating its capacity, leading to policymakers to assume it has sufficient resources to expand agricultural projects when in reality some machinery may be unreliable and in need of urgent replacement. Madam Speaker, ma'am, our country depends on agriculture, and agriculture is central to economic stability. Therefore, accurate asset valuation provides reliable data for policy formulation and enhances credibility in financial reporting. Encouragingly, ADA has achieved a record summer cereal hectarage, putting more than 101,000 hectares under maize and the traditional grains for the 2025-2026 season. This achievement is a catalyst for the implementation of the National Development Strategy 2, positioning ADA as a central agent for food, feed, fiber, and rural industrialization. However, these gains cannot be sustained if weaknesses in asset valuation persist, as we lack information of ADA's documentation of 2020 to 2030 to 2023 disposed assets. In my view, ADA's accurate asset valuation is vital to ensure that, for example, machinery in Chipinge irrigation schemes in the Midlands and land resources across the country are properly accounted for, thereby supporting food security and rural development. As the President, Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa, has consistently reiterated, our national goal is food self-sufficient. I therefore strongly support the recommendation that ADA institutionalize a formal asset management framework, conduct annual impairment and valuation exercises, and submit comprehensive financial valuation statements to the Auditor General in a timely manner. We want to see ADA achieve its target of 500,000 metric tons of summer cereals from 100,000 hectares and 300,000 metric tons of winter cereals from 60,000 hectares in the 2025-2026 farming season. Already, ADA has expanded irrigation in boosting production of maize, traditional grains, and cotton. While farmers have benefited from modern drought-resistant seed varieties, these achievements, Madam Speaker, require our continued oversight in line with Section 119 of the Constitution. Oversight is only meaningful if we have a true financial picture of ADA, which can be achieved through proper valuation and impairment tests, documentation of disposed assets from 2020 to 2023, and as a result of the 2024 asset verification and recording exercise. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Mashishi. I call upon the Deputy Chief Whip to adjourn the debate.
Madam Speaker, ma'am, I move that the debate be now adjourned.
Who seconds?
I second, Madam Speaker.
It has been moved that the debate be now adjourned. Is there any debate? I put the question that the debate be now adjourned. Those who have that opinion will say aye. Those of the contrary opinion will say no. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it. The question is accordingly affirmed and the debate is adjourned. To what day, Honorable Deputy Chief Whip?
To tomorrow, Madam Speaker, ma'am.
Thank you.
Madam Speaker, ma'am, I move that order number 23 be stood over until order number 24 has been disposed of.
Who seconds?
I second, Madam Speaker.
Is there any objection? No objection, agreed to. Notice of motion number 24, Honorable Maposa.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, ma'am. I move the vote in my name.
Who seconds? Thank you. Honorable Maposa.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker, Madam, for giving me this time to report, to make a report on the Public Accounts Committee on Air Zimbabwe's 2019 audited accounts in the 2022 audited general reports for the state-owned enterprise and the parastatals. I will skip the names; they will be written as in the handsets as they are. Honorable Speaker, Madam, I am going straight to the introduction. The Public Accounts Committee, in fulfillment of its constitutional mandate to examine the audited accounts of state enterprise and parastatals, analyzed the audited financial statements for Air Zimbabwe Private Limited for the financial year ended 31st December 2019. The examination was guided by the committee's responsibility to ensure transparent and accountability and sound financial management in the use of public resources. Honorable Speaker, Madam, objectives of the inquiry. The objective of the inquiry was to assist Parliament and other oversight institutions in assigning the level of compliance with the statutory and financial reporting requirements, and recommend appropriate corrective measures that will enhance government efficiency and financial discipline within Air Zimbabwe. Honorable Speaker, Madam, methodology. The committee received an oral evidence and sought written responses from the management of the Air Zimbabwe to clarify the issues raised in the audit report. This report documents the key findings and the company's responses and corrective action taken and the committee's observations based on the evidence presented. Honorable Speaker, Madam, committee's findings. Variation in the opening balances. The committee noted the auditor's general findings of a significant variation amounting to US 92,480,450 between the closing balances of the previously financial year and the opening balances of the year under reviewed. Air Zimbabwe officials explained that dispensary resulted from an adjusting journal entrance based in 2020 to account for transaction costs incurred during the reconciliation period, which were not recognized at the time of the audit. The company official further explained that the system deficiencies within the systems, applications and production in the data processes, accounting software allowed some entries to be posted after year end possess had been completed. A consultant was engaged to address this issue, and the system had since been rectified to prevent such occurrence in the future. Honorable Speaker, Madam, commit observation. The Auditor General confirmed that the issue was rectified. However, the delay is in recognition of retrenchment costing violation section 25 of 2C of Zimbabwe's Public Finance Act and regarding timely financial reporting. Committee recommendation, Honorable Speaker, Madam. In future, the management should recognize all costs and when they are incurred. Coming to inventory valuations, the Auditor General noted that inventory values at US 18,914,747 had been recognized in the financial statement without a corresponding physical count at the end of the year. Honorable Speaker, Madam, the airline official attributed this to the COVID-19 induced lockdown, which made it impossible to conduct a physical stock take at year end. Consequently, the figures reported were drawn from running balances in the sub-inventory ledgers. The official reported that physical inventory counts have been conducted in the year that followed, and the resulted values had been verified and agreed upon by the auditors. Honorable Speaker, committee observation. The stock count was later done. However, the absence of physical verification for the inventory violation SIS 2 of 13 regarding inventory measurements. Committee recommendations. In future, Air Zimbabwe should conduct a comprehensive physical count under the Auditor's General supervision. Valuation of aircrafts. The committee noted the audit's finding regarding the recognition of aircraft assets valued at US 30 million United States dollar 940,000 without conducting impairable testing despite signing of possible impairment. Air Zimbabwe's official explained that although the historical cost of the aircraft was US 30,940,000, the book value had been fully depreciated by 2019. As a result, the company saw no basis for conducting imperishable assessment on assets with nil book value. However, in the response to the audit concern, the airline had since engaged professional aircraft values to assess the fleet. Once the valuation process is completed, new values would incorporated and appropriate impairment assessment would be conducted. Committee observations, Honorable Speaker, Madam. The Auditor General confirmed that the issues was later resolved. However, a 5-year delay in valuation suggests possible consummation of assets impairments. Honorable Speaker, Madam, committee recommendations again. In future, Air Zimbabwe should ensure that valuation is timely done by management or an independent valuer. Honorable Speaker, coming to the unrecorded aircrafts. The committee also noted that the use of several aircraft by the airline which were not recognized as assets in its financial statements were found on the ground. There was no information on whether Air Zimbabwe is the rightful owner of the aircrafts. The following are the aircraft which were not recognized in their books. Aircraft type and registration and owners. BAE 146 ZWPD, the owner was Air Force of Zimbabwe. MA 60 ZWPK, Government of Zimbabwe. Type of the aircraft, MA 60 again, ZWPL, Government of Zimbabwe. MA 60 again, ZWPJ, Government of Zimbabwe. These are the owners. Airbus Zimbabwe 320 to 200, ZWPM yet to be confirmed. Airbus 320 to 200, ZWPN yet to be confirmed, Honorable Speaker, Madam. A Zimbabwe official informed the committee that they acknowledged this and had written to the government of Zimbabwe to obtain the necessary documents to facilitate formal recognition of these assets into its books. Committee observation, Honorable Speaker, Madam. The A320ZWPM ownership ambiguity creates potential liability exposure under the Chicago Convention. There was no evidence of insurance cover for the unrecorded assets. Honorable Speaker, Madam, committee recommendations again. Air Zimbabwe should register all aircraft under the government of Zimbabwe by 31 August 2026. Honorable Speaker, Madam, valuation of South Africans aircraft debt. The audit noted that since January 1920, year 2014, when the ZWPN, this is the type of the aircraft, A320 aircraft, was grounded in South Africa, a debt pertaining to parking fees had not been accrued. Servicing of the debt was also not being done for a reason that invoices were not being received from South Africa Airways Technical. In response to this, in response to the findings, the committee was informed that the aircraft wrote to South Africa Airways Technical to confirm their position. SASET confirmed that no parking fees were due. Instead, the aircraft was only quoted for the outstanding maintenance works that would be required when the aircraft is scheduled to fly back to Zimbabwe. It was further included that to prevent similar oversight in the future, the aircraft had established regular communications channels with SAP to obtain the outstanding invoices for any chargeable tasked on the ground aircraft. It had also developed a robust asset management system to track the status, location, and association cost of all fleets, including those that are grounded. Honorable Speaker, Madam, committee observations. Continuous storage exposes the aircraft to potential seizure under South Africa's airport, which will cost it for it to come to fly back by bylaws. The airline did not accrue parking fees for ground aircraft since 2014, exposing it to the risk of misstating liabilities. The lapse showed weak controls in debt recognition and assets management. Honorable Speaker, Madam. Committee recommendation. Air Zimbabwe must strengthen its accrued and verification process to ensure all liabilities are promptly recorded by 31st August 2026. The airline must ensure that regular reconciliation with services provider are conducted quarterly. Honorable Speaker, Madam, tax computation is not done. Audit noted that during the year ended 31st 2019, Air Zimbabwe did not do any tax computation for both income and deferred taxes. Quarterly returns were not being done. The tax liabilities and the deferred tax could not be ascertained. The committee was informed that the aircraft was up to date with its deferred tax computation. Furthermore, the airline was now submitting quarterly returns to Zimura for income tax and was up to date with its tax returns filing with Zimura. Honorable Speaker, Madam, committee observations. Non-submission of quarterly returns incurred unnecessary penalties. The belated order suggests period regardless rather than system errors. Committee recommendation. In future, Air Zimbabwe should submit all outstanding tax computation to Zimura on time to avoid unnecessary penalties. Key vacancies post. The audit revealed that several senior positions within the company were currently being filled on an acting basis alongside issues of understaffing resulting from a recent retrenchment associated with the reconstruction process. The following senior roles were affected: Chief Executive Officer, Company Secretary Manager, Company Secretary, Manager of Maintenance, Manager of Flight Operation, Manager of Human Resources, Manager of Finance, Manager of Sales and Marketing Manager, of Grounds Operation and Airport Services Manager, of Corporate Quality, Safety and Security Managers of Procurement and Manager of Information Technology. The official submitted that the recruitment process exercise managed had been initiated in March 2023. As of now, several key positions had been successfully filled, including the Chief Executive Officer on the 1 November 2023, Manager of Ground Operation and Airport Services on 12 April 2023, Manager of Sales and Marketing on 4 August 2023, Manager of Cost and Budget Control on 24 August 2023, Manager of Strategic and Business Development on 16 October 2023. Additionally, the Chief Finance Officer was scheduled to ensure their role on 1 June 2024. To fill the outstanding vacant position, the airline was implemented its strategic plan for 2023-24 aimed at enhancing the financial stability. Consequently, hiring would be carried out in alignment with a better quality situation. Honorable Speaker, Madam, committee observations. Understaffing contributed to control failure. Noted in other findings, the delay appointment of the CFOC, Executive Financial Management, is a risk. Committee recommendation: Air Zimbabwe should fill all vacant position 3 months after the adoption of these reports. Internal audit functions: the Auditor General noted that company's internal controls were not subject to frequent review as the company did not have any internal audit function. This was contrary to the requirements of the Public Entity Corporate Government Act, Chapter 10 of point 31. Honorable Speaker, Madam, in response to the auditor's findings, management indicated that during the time the organization was under administration, the internal audit functions had been removed. The internal auditor was not removed, but the previous auditor had resigned. The administrator chose not to fill this position, reasoning that once the aircraft engaged from administration, a permanent board would take over the recruitment of the auditors. During the period of aircraft operation without an in-house audit team, the administrator occasionally sought internal services to ensure that control checks were maintained. The internal audit was reinstated on 1st September 2023. The department comprised of 3 individuals, and the unit had successfully completed all its planned tasks since 2022. Honorable Speaker, Madam, committee observations. 18 months gap in internal audit covers violation section 12 of 4 of Public Entity Corporate Government Act. Committee recommendation: Air Zimbabwe must ensure that the audit committee is always in place. Air Zimbabwe must ensure that all internal audit is maintained at all times with adequate staffing and resources. The audit committee should be reconstituted and full operational by 31 August 2026 in line with the statutory requirements. Employees' costs. Honorable Speaker, Madam. The committee noted employees' cost amounting to $4,760,713, which were recognized in the financial statement during the year ended December 31, 2019, but the appropriate audit evidence was not available to the Auditor General. The airline official explained that the issue arose due to challenges in retrieving interference felt from the absence Berliner payroll system, a result of previous system issues. Consultant had since resolved these issues, and electronic payments requisition system had been implemented to ensure accuracy and easily reply documentation for further audits. Comment observation. The Audit General confirmed that the issue was resolved. Honorable Speaker Mwendem, delays financial statement submission. The committee noted that financial statements for 2023 have not been submitted for audit as of the 3rd June 2025. Financial statements for 2021 and 2022 were not submitted in time. This constitutes a violation of Section 28 of 1 of the Public Finance Management Act, mandating annual audits, Section 12 of 3 of the Public Finance Corporate Government Act, requiring timely submission. Honorable Speaker, Madam. Committee observations. Non-compliance diminishing parliamentary oversight authority under Section 299 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe. Audit recommendation becomes obsolete due to excessive delays, and board does not exercise due oversight on financial report. Committee recommendation, Honorable Speaker, Madam. Air Zimbabwe should submit all outstanding financial statement on Audit General by 31 August 2026. The government of Zimbabwe should ensure that submission of financial statement in time is part of the performance contract of accounting officers by 1 August 2026. All the accounting officers. Honorable Speaker, Madam, in conclusion, the committee emphasized the importance of timely, transparent, and accurate financial reporting for effective oversight of public entities. The audit findings regarding Air Zimbabwe highlights significant deficits in corporate government, internal controls, financial reporting that requires immediate attention. Although the airline had made efforts to address some issues, such as reinstating the internal audit functions and improving communications with creditors, persistent delays in submitting financial statements, unresolving assets registration problems, and incompetent tax compliance remains a concern. These issues jeopardize public accountability and expose both the airline and the state to legal financial risk. The committee urges Air Zimbabweans to promptly execute all outstanding remedial action specific in this report. So I submit, Honorable Speaker, Madam.
Thank you, Honorable Maposa. The question before the House is a motion by Honorable Maposa that this House considers and adopts the report of the Public Accounts Committee on Air Zimbabwe's 2020 audited accounts in the Auditor General's report on state-owned enterprises for the year ended 31st December 2023, AC 58/2025. Is there any debate? Honorable Mshoriwa.
Ndinotenda mubati wechigaro. Ndinosimuka kutsigira gwaro rataurwa navamaposa vekuchimani-mani vakamirira Public Accounts Committee. Mubati wechigaro, nyaya yeAir Zimbabwe yakabudiswa naAuditor General ikazoongororwa nePublic Accounts, iri kuratidza kuti Air Zimbabwe kune mabiribobi ari kuitika ikoko, uye kunoratidzika kuti zvina kumira zvakanaka. Iyi ikambani yanga ine mukurumbira kwete muZimbabwe chete asi mukurumbira munyika yeAfrica. Air Zimbabwe ndo imwe yendege dzaikwanisa kubva kuno dzichienda kunana England nekumwe kwakasiyana siyana. Asi mubato wechigaro zvina kumira musha. Ripoti ya Auditor General iyi ndiya 2019 zvichireva kuti 2021 2022 kwesokwa kukoku hakuna chiriko. Auditor General kutaura kuti mubikirwa uri kuitwa kuZimbabwe even nyaya dzemabhuku adzo manyaya emaaccounts kwakaoma hakuna chiriko. Zvinhu zvakaenda nemusango. Hazvinangoenda nemusango chete nenyaya yekuti mabhuku haana kumira zvakanaka. Hakuna kana even kubatsira kutongonyora atinoti muchirungu maassets eZimbabwe. Even kutaura kuti ndege chaidzo hazisi kutaura maassets emota ka Madam Speaker. Tutaura maassets akafanana nendege. Mukaona company inoti inooperator ine ndege dzaisingambozive kuti indege dzipi. Auditor General akataura kuti papa ine ndege dzinodarika 5 dzanga dzisiri mumabhuku eZimbabwe. Havatombozive kuti ndege ndedzipi. Wozovabvunza zvakunzi dzinenge ndege dzakabva kuhurumende, dzinenge ndege dzekuAir Force, iyi ndege hatombozive kuti ndiani, but iripo panapa tiri kuishandisa. eZimbabwe inotoone dzimwe ndege dzakafira kuJoni uko kuairport yekuSouth Africa uko kuOR Tambo airport. Ndege idzodzo dzatopera payakapakwa pangoine mazihuswa nekuti haisi kudi hapana chiri kuitwa. Saka mubati wechigaro ripoti iyi iri kubvawo kuyePublic Accounts Committee iri kuti mamiriro akaita zvinhu kuZimbabwe muna 2019 anoratidza kuti pakaoma. Ndo paya panonzi patimire pakashata. Ndo mamiriro akaita kuZimbabwe. Zviri kudiwa kuti zviitwe zvinhu zvihombe zvizhinji. Asi tese tiri muno tiri kuzviziva kuti Zimbabwe zvinezvi yakaendeswa kuMutapa Investment Fund. Muna mato wedu kuti pamwe zvinogona kufamba. Asi dambudziko raonekwa nePublic Accounts Committee nderekuti zvinhu zvingagofamba sei pasina kana vanhu vacho vanofambisa basa. Mapositions anofanira kunge achibata kuti basa riende mberi haana vanhu. Even kuti vanoongorora kuona kuti mari iri kushandiswa zvakasimba here mukati mekambani hapana. Evidence pakaudzwa vanhu 3, asi vanhu 3 ava havakwanisi kuti vangaita chinhu. Hakuna basa rinoitwa. Zvinezvi mukaona mukaenda paairport peda pa Robert Mugabe airport apa munogona kushama munoona ndege dzevamwe dzakanzana South African Airways. Munotarisa ndege muchibvunza kuti muchaonawo yakanzi Zimbabwe. Unotora mukana zuva rose wakaringa kudai kuti utsvage paringe pasina. Izvi zvinorwadza. Zvinorwadza mubati wechigaro, zvinorwadza. Auditor General aratidza kushushikana. Uye komiti yenyu yePublic Accounts iri kuti iyi kambani yeZimbabwe iri kufanira kuti irovedzerwe kuti iite zvinhu maringe nemutemo wenyika. Vasubmite maaccounts vaite zvese zvinodiwa. Uye zvakare chimwe chiripo inyaya yezvikwereti zvine ndege iyi. Ndege iyi inototyirwa kuti ikaenda kune dzimwe nyika inonobatwa ikoko ikasadzoka nenyaya yezvikwereti zvaisati yabhadhara. Asi isusu senyika hazvitifadzi kuti Zimbabwe tigoshayawo ndege yedu inonzi Zimbabwe. Azviite. Saka naizvozvo tiri kuti isusu separamende ngatitsigirei gwaro ranyorwa nePublic Accounts Committee rekuti ndege yedu yeZimbabwe imuke. Kana yamuka zvinoita zvakanaka. Vamwe bese munoziva kuti mune hama neshamwari dziri kuEngland uko. Mukavabvunza mafambiro avari kuita, vanopoterera kuti vauye kuno kuZimbabwe. Either way neku-South Africa, katomboenda nona naDubai, vozoya kunoko. Nepo taifanira kunge tichingobva panapa ga Harare tichidonera muEngland uko. But hazviitiki kana kambani iyi ine mamiriro akaita iyi. Zvinhu zvofanira kugadziriswa. Ndosaka ndiri kuti mubati wechigaro paramende ngatitsigirei ripoti iyi kuti Zimbabwe imuke. Kana ikange yamuka, then isusuwo tinofara. Tarisawo zvinoita na Ethiopian Airways. Ukaenda ikoko unoona midhadhadhadha yendege. Ana Kenyan Airways, ana South African Airways. Ndo panofanira kunge paine Zimbabwe. Zvinzi Zimbabwe tinadzo ndege dzinenge dzakati rakatira. Zvikafazere kuita kugadzira ma-airport pasina ndege yedu yeZimbabwe inenge iripo. Saka nemashoko iwayo ndinongoti aiwa ripoti ngatitsigirei. Ndatenda.
Thank you. Further debate. I recognize Honorable Mangondo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, ma'am. I also rise to contribute to the report which was presented by Honorable Maposa here on behalf of the Public Accounts Committee in relation to the Air Zimbabwe report, financial report for the year ended 2020, which was reported in the Auditor General's report for the year 2023. Honorable Speaker, ma'am, the situation at Air Zimbabwe, as far as it relates to governance issues and reporting requirements, leaves a lot to be desired. Air Zimbabwe has been delinquent in terms of submitting its audited financial statements to the Auditor General for several years. Hence, its 2020 report only appeared in the 2023 Auditor General's report. And the situation, in fact, let me correct this, is for the year ended 31 December 2019. And the situation remains the same with regards to the subsequent financial years. Air Zimbabwe was operating with what I would call a skeleton staff in key functions of accountability. Now, Madam Speaker, ma'am, that puts the entity in breach of the Public Finance and Management Act, as well as in breach of the State-Owned Entities Act. Air Zimbabwe did not have sufficient board-level committees, especially the audit committee, which should have played an oversight role in terms of governance and compliance issues. You also notice that for a while, Air Zimbabwe's audit committee was dysfunctional and there was no internal auditor. These are very serious matters, Madam Speaker, ma'am. We cannot have a public-owned entity going for several years without reporting, without being accountable. And I think this calls for serious censure of the management of Air Zimbabwe. Madam Speaker, ma'am, with regards to the aircraft which were not recorded in the assets register, your committee, the Public Accounts Committee, carried out an inspection in loco of the airplanes that were parked and may still be parked at the Air Zimbabwe airport premises. And notice that these planes were just parked there. They were not in good functional order. They were not flying. And one does not understand how they can be parked there for several years without taking appropriate disposal action, since they are unlikely to fly anyway. With regards to the aircraft which is parked at the OR Tambo in Joburg, it's one plane, by the way, which is parked at OR Tambo. Your committee could not proceed to go and inspect that particular aircraft. But the committee was told that though parked at the OR Tambo Airport, the plane was not accruing any parking charges. It being argued that the authorities were waiting for or expecting Air Zimbabwe to have the plane serviced in accordance with the IATA rules, and that servicing of that particular plane would settle any perceived risks or charges that may come from parking fees. But Madam Speaker, ma'am, that plane has been there for several years. So the risk that an invoice may be raised in the future is very high. And also, what happens if Air Zimbabwe fails to have it serviced completely? What is the plan? There is no real plan as what is supposed to happen to that plane. Is it going to be parked there for decades without any action being taken? I think it's important for the management of Air Zimbabwe to get that issue resolved. Some of the problems, of course, with regards to the unrecording of assets, particularly planes, arose from the confusion between Air Zimbabwe and the government. Since Air Zimbabwe management argued that they didn't have the documents to have those assets recognized in their assets registers, as well as in their financial statements. Madam Speaker, ma'am, I would like to differ with regards to Air Zimbabwe's ability to fly continental flights. Air Zimbabwe accumulated a lot of deaths due to these overseas destinations, such as London Gatwick, primarily because those routes are not viable for Air Zimbabwe. For a small airline like Air Zimbabwe, they are not viable. For a small airline like Air Zimbabwe, they don't have appropriate equipment. And hence, you had some of the airplanes like the Boeing 767s that used to fly Harare, London, Gatwick route being barred from landing there, not just because of deaths that have been accumulated, but also because they did not satisfy safety requirements. So if Air Zimbabwe is to be resuscitated, Madam Speaker, ma'am, it is important that Air Zimbabwe be reconfigured. There have been lots of changes that have taken place in the airline industry for the past 30 or so years. You have seen airlines. I'll give you examples of Rwanda Airlines, for example, resorting to smaller equipment which fly regional routes. Those are much more viable than the idea that we can have long-haul flights from Harare to London. As much as it is prestigious that as a nation we will have a plane flying into London, that is not sustainable. That is not viable. So Air Zimbabwe must be reconfigured, in my view, so that its focus is on regional routes and so that it acquires smaller planes which are much more economical and cost effective. Air Zimbabwe, I believe, can operate such a service profitably in the region and also offer domestic flights to our premium tourist destinations such as Victoria Falls. So, Madam Speaker, ma'am, this would be my recommendation, that we reconfigure, or the ministry considers reconfiguring Air Zimbabwe to take account of the changes that have taken place in the airline industry. And not at this moment in time when Air Zimbabwe has not been resuscitated, to think of starting with the long-haul flights, because those will just be a drain on the fiscus. That's my first recommendation. My second recommendation is that the management in Air Zimbabwe needs to be made aware of the importance of not just managing the flying, or in this case, they are not even managing any flying planes, but to also focus on the issues of reporting requirements on time, the issue of recognizing assets as much as they may be antiquated in their assets registers, so that at least they can be compliant with the Public Finance Management Act. Madam Speaker, ma'am, Air Zimbabwe has been operating as a business entity for a very long time, and surely it should not be found wanting for failing to submit audited financial statements, for failing to keep proper asset registers. Those are very preliminary issues that their management should be focused on. With that, Madam Speaker, I thank you for offering me this opportunity. Thank you.
I'm rising on a point of order, Madam Speaker.
Yes, what's your point of order?
Right, my point of order arises from Honorable Mushwariwa's debate. He kept on saying Maguri Popi. So I wanted Honorable Mushwariwa to clarify or tell the House what is Maguri Popi, or whether Maguri Popi is another name for ZANU-PF. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Mshoriwa, I think you can explain to your colleague when we finish the
Madam
session.
Speaker, Madam Speaker, I rise on a point of order.
I have ruled, I said you explain after the session to him. Can we proceed?
Will you still please recognize me?
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Further debates, I recognize Honorable Kangau Saru.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Greetings from Urungwe.
Order. Yes, Honorable Karikoka.
Madam Speaker, I think Honorable Hadebe needs to withdraw what he said. We all listened to Honorable Mshoriwa's debate that had nothing to do with political parties. And why would Honorable Hadebe mention ZANU-PF when the original debater did not mention anything to do with a political party called ZANU-PF? Madam Speaker, please, may withdraw.
Order. The honorable member on my left who raised a point of order. Can you please withdraw?
Madam Speaker, there is nothing to withdraw. The honorable member is out of order. He's actually rising on a point of madness.
We withdraw. Why did you think that Honorable Mshoriwa was referring to ZANU-PF?
No, it was a question. That's why
But why was the question targeted to one party? Why not to Triple C or any other party that exists?
Okay,
can you please withdraw?
Or let me rephrase the question. Whether it's ZANU-PF or Triple C, I wanted him to clarify. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, we take offense to what he said. And honestly, he needs to withdraw.
Honorable on my left, can you please withdraw so that we move forward?
Withdraw.
Thank you. Honorable Kangau Saru.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, ma'am. Thank you for the withdrawal. I rise to contribute to the report of the Public Accounts Committee on Air Zimbabwe, Madam Speaker, ma'am. A report which provides a critical opportunity to strengthening governance, financial discipline, and operational efficiency within our national airline. Let me begin by recognizing the effort of the committee and the government in upholding accountability consistent with the Section 298 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, which calls for transparency, responsibility, and prudent management of public resources. Madam Speaker, ma'am, regionally, Ethiopia, through Ethiopian Airlines, has become Africa's most successful airline, contributing over $6 billion annually to the Ethiopian economy and maintaining profitability over a decade, according to African Development Bank and airline annual reports. The success is urged on the strong governance system, disciplined financial reporting, and strategic asset management. Madam Speaker, ma'am, globally, airlines such as those in Singapore, led by Singapore Airlines, consistently rank among the best due to the robust internal control, a real-time financial system, and strict compliance framework. The International Air Transport Association notes that airlines with strong financial controls reduces operational inefficiency by up to 25%. Turning to the report, Madam Speaker, Mayor, allow me to highlight 4 key areas for strengthening. The report notes a variance of over $92 million in financial statements due to delayed recognition of costs. In simple terms, this means financial record did not accurately reflect reality at the right time. Encouragingly, corrective steps have been taken. However, this highlights the importance of real-time financial reporting systems. According to the International Monetary Fund, countries and institutions that maintain timely financial reporting improve fiscal credibility over by 30%, enhancing investor and stakeholder confidence. Further, the report highlights aircraft that were being used but not recorded in the books with unclear ownership. Simply put, some assets existed physically but not legally or financially documented. This presented an opportunity to strengthen asset registers and legal ownership framework. Globally, aviation regulator emphasized that 100% of asset traceability is non-negotiable, particularly under international aviation standards. Madam Speaker, ma'am, the airline operated for a period without internal audit function, contrary to legal requirements. In simple terms, there was no consistent internal control checking whether things were being done correctly. This is critical because the Organization for Economic and Cooperation and Development notes that organizations with strong internal audit systems experience up to 40% fewer financial irregularities. The restatement of the internal audit unity is therefore a commendable and a necessary step. Further, the report notes delayed submission of financial statements, undermining oversight. In simple terms, Parliament cannot supervise effectively if information comes late. What emerged from this report is not a failure, but it is a clear reform trajectory. The experiences of Ethiopian Airlines and Singapore Airlines demonstrate that a stronger governance, disciplined financial system, and clear accountability structures are foundation of successful national airlines. Air Zimbabwe is already taking corrective steps, hence what is now required is consistency, institutionalization, and accelerating of those reforms. By strengthening our financial reporting, formalizing asset management, reinforcement internal controls, and ensuring timely accountability would position our Air Zimbabwe not only for recovery, but for competitiveness within the region and globally in the global market. This aligns fully with our national aspiration under Vision 2030. I thank you, Talumba.
Thank you. Further debate. I recognize Honorable Madziwanyika.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity. Madam Speaker, I've got 5 issues that I want to raise. Firstly, I want to confirm that I wish to support the Public Accounts Committee for their work which they did. I would like to say that they did a sterling job in bringing out this kind of endemic, systemic, institutional, pervasive, and rampant corruption in Air Zimbabwe. Madam Speaker, ma'am, let me start with the issue of variances of balance at the end of 2019 and the balance at the beginning of 2020. Madam Speaker, it does not require an accountant to understand that as at the end of the year 2019, the outstanding balance that we have must be the same balance that we bring forward to the next year in 2020. However, Madam Speaker, ma'am, you will find that there is a variance of United States $92 million US dollars. The variance of the balance at the end of the year and the balance at the beginning of the year. And the explanation given by officials from Air Zimbabwe, Madam Speaker, ma'am, was that this was as a result of retrenchment costs which were not included in the year 2020. Madam Speaker, If you look at Air Zimbabwe, even if it fires all its employees, the retrenchment package of 92 million US dollars is diabolical. It is unbelievable. It is out of this world. It is actually illogical to have such an amount. So I thought maybe Public Accounts Commission should have gone a step further to verify this amount. Because 92 million employment costs is not a joke for a company like Air Zimbabwe, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me talk of the issue of inventory valuation. There is this situation, Madam Speaker, that happened at Air Zimbabwe, that inventory valued at US 19 million had no corresponding physical account. Under normal circumstances, Madam Speaker, what should happen is, if you do your inventory checks in the SAP system, you must correspond that, or you must confirm that with the physical account. But then what happened, Madam Speaker, is there was no physical account during the year 2019. But then the officials from Zimbabwe, when they were asked by the members of the Public Accounts Committee, they actually gave an excuse to say that there was COVID. How does COVID stop taking, Madam Chair? We have many companies in Zimbabwe which undertook this process in government. Many MDAs did their stock taking. They did the physical account. What was so special about Air Zimbabwe? It boggles the mind, Madam Speaker. So the stock count was then later done years later. The report from the Public Accounts Committee to specify when exactly was this stock taking done. It may be in 2024. Then the question that comes to me is, how to then take a stock of the year of December 2019 in 2024 or even in 2023? Does it correspond? Does it make sense accounting-wise? It doesn't. And this is why, Mr. Madam Speaker, why I'm saying that this represents pervasive, rampant, and systemic corruption that we are seeing at Air Zimbabwe. Madam Chair, there's an issue that I want to talk about. The issue of unregistered aircraft. Madam Speaker, there are 6 aircrafts that are parked at Air Zimbabwe right now, which are not operational. And of the 6 airplanes, Madam Speaker, 1 is said to belong to Air Force of Zimbabwe. The other is said to belong to the government of Zimbabwe. The other 2, they are not confirmed. How does this happen, Madam Speaker? That someone lives in an airplane at the premise of Air Zimbabwe, and there is no documentation that we are holding this airplane on behalf of these people. There is no seizure document, there is no receipt for items held, there is nothing, there is no documentation. This is the reason why I always say, Madam Speaker, that the only reason why an airplane can be parked at Air Zimbabwe premises and get not accounted for is corruption. There is no other explanation whatsoever. All right, Madam Speaker, to make matters worse, when the Public Accounts Committee visited Air Zimbabwe at this premises, they asked, who are the owners of this aircraft? And they tell that the owners are not known. What kind of response is that? Can you honestly, if you come to my household, you see a parked motor vehicle, then you ask me who is the owner, then I say, I don't know. That level of decadence in our MTAs has reached unprecedented levels. That must be cleared without defense, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, you also find that the Air Force, Air Zimbabwe officials, they said they have written to the government of Zimbabwe to inquire of the owners. Then the question that comes is, who is the government of Zimbabwe? My understanding of government, Madam Speaker, is the government is made up of the executive, where there is the necessary, the requisite ministry of transport. Government is made up of the legislature, which is parliament. Government is made up of judiciary. Where exactly did these people wrote to? Does it make sense to say that we wrote to the government of Zimbabwe? You must actually tell us that we wrote to the Minister of Defense, we wrote to this, so that we determine exactly what is happening. So these answers, the vagueness in these answers, demonstrate that there is a lot of opaqueness in the manner in which business is taking place at the Air Zimbabwe. Madam Chair, I'm very much concerned with one of our airplanes, which is in South Africa, which has broken down. Information from the Public Accounts Committee report indicates that this airplane broke down in 2014, January. And up to date, there is no action taken by Air Zimbabwe to recover the plane or even to dispose the garbage. My question that comes to mind is, can we honestly say that that airplane has no disposable value that may benefit Air Zimbabwe today? The answer is no. Secondly, when the Public Accounts Committee visited Air Zimbabwe, when they asked about the whereabouts or what's happening with this airplane, they were told that Air Zimbabwe wrote to South African Airways, and the South African Airways responded by saying that there were no charges. Madam Speaker, in this world, wherever you go, there is no such situation where you leave property in the hands of a commercial airline, and then you say that you don't pay charges. There are no charges since 2014. There are no demurrage. There are no parking fees. There are no warehouse costs. There is nothing like that in this world. So this, Madam Speaker, is clear that I wish that the Public Accounts Commission should have visited South Africa. They might find that this airplane is not there. Madam Speaker, this kind of situation where we leave our airplane since January 2014 to now 2026, a period of about 11 years, it totally brings this country, Zimbabwe, into disrepute. It will appear that we are a country which is going to lead us, we have leaders in government MPAs which are grossly, negligently doing their work. Madam Chair, last one. When the Public Accounts Committee visited Air Zimbabwe, they don't get any record of any tax computations which are being done. In other words, Air Zimbabwe was operating without paying any tax, without submitting any tax returns. So look at this situation, Madam Chair. There are no QPDs since 2019, no pay schedules 2019, no returns. And then, when the Public Accounts Committee was making a follow-up, they are told that right now in 2025, we've now corrected the situation. What does it tell? Even government MDA is not leading by example to pay the necessary tax from 2019 to 2023. How much more a general person? What does it reflect about the country's credibility in terms of tax management collection? What does it reflects on the MDA running of these companies? So what it means, Madam Speaker, is these returns, tax returns, were filed in 2023 and they belong to 2019. So what happens, Madam Speaker, is that whenever you file a return late, you face what you call a less submission penalty. Madam Speaker, it means they also pay late. When you pay late, you face what you call late payment interest. So this company called Air Zimbabwe is being labored with a lot of penalties and interest as a result of human gross negligence. The question that comes, that is, what next? What did we do as Parliament? I always say this, Madam Speaker, that if we come and do these reports here in Parliament without the necessary action, we need a decisive steps taken by government to ensure that this kind of corruption is arrested once and forever. So I expect, Madam Speaker, to see that there must be a change in leadership. We can't have a director or directors overseeing Air Zimbabwe, and they are still in office today after this kind of demonstration of gross negligence in management of business. As such, Madam Speaker, I fully support the Public Accounts Committee in that regard. I thank you.
Thank you. Further debate, I recognize Honorable Chidoa.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker, Ma'am, for giving me this opportunity to debate the report by the Public Accounts Committee on Air Zimbabwe, as presented by the acting chair. The report largely is focusing on governance issues, strengthening financial management, and improving service delivery. Quite a number of issues have been covered, so I will just pick on some of the issues that I feel that I need also to add my voice on. This report comes at a time when Zimbabwe is bedeviled by a high debt, I think which is above 300 million US dollars, an aging fleet, which also is militating against the usage of its routes internationally and in the region, and then the endemic management problems, and also the operational scandals, like the one where we saw handwritten boarding passes. But if one goes through the report, there are also some positives that are there, where the report acknowledges that Zimbabwe has taken concrete steps to re-establish governance. Yes, we are having governance issues, but steps are being taken to ensure that the entity is on the level to reach expected governance levels. And then on asset management, again, there are some positives there to ensure that they comply with the expectations and also to deal with all the remaining weaknesses. There are also issues to do with the restoration of the internal audit capacity. Again, it's a positive. And then the issue of the Auditor General confirming that the SAP-related posting issues are being rectified. And then the last one, where Zimbabwe engaged professionals so that they could carry out the valuation of their aircrafts. So these are some of the positives that have been mentioned in the report. But looking at the report, there are quite a lot of areas where there is need for Zimbabwe to correct, especially on governance issues. These were identified, and the previous speaker highlighted this to say, should we continue with the same management if we see that the management, the board, they are not performing, and there is need for us as Parliament, as we perform our oversight role, to ensure that Zimbabwe is brought back to operational capacity where they also operate in line with the expectations of the Public Finance Management Act and all the governance procedures as is highlighted in the corporate governance. Then the other key issues are to do with the large opening, closing variances and inventories. Again, these have been mentioned, and these are some of the weaknesses that have been identified. But linking this to the Public Finance Management Act, I have also seen that variances in late cost recognition breach the timely reporting as expected under the Public Finance Management Act. And again, this is a violation of what is expected, and it goes back to governance issues. And in terms of the actionable recommendations, I feel that Zimbabwe should reconcile and fix these issues, especially on opening and closing balances, and ensure that all costs are recognized in line with the Public Finance Management Act, Section 25, subsection 2C. And on asset management, Zimbabwe should implement a formal asset management framework that is aligned to IPSAS. And again, this is in line with the expectation of public sector standards. And this entails that Zimbabwe should regularly review residual values in line with the IPSAS. Then on inventory controls, again, this is a point which has been mentioned already, that Zimbabwe should reconstitute and empower the audit committee. And this, again, is critical in ensuring that in-house oversight is done, which will also assist the work of Parliament. The timely payment of taxes, again, this is critical, and Zimbabwe should establish formal processes to record liabilities. And again, this ensures that there is timely accruals. As Zimbabwe should improve processes to obtain and reconcile invoices from service providers and implement quarterly reconciliation with the creditors. And on governance issues, it is critical that we do an assessment of the current positions that are there, the people who are filling those positions, and see if there is a perfect fit that will allow the resuscitation of Air Zimbabwe. And last but not least, in order for Air Zimbabwe to fully provide its services, there is need for us to link governance to service outcomes and also ensure that we have got a reliable fleet that is maintained. So I fully support the submissions by the Public Accounts Committee as presented by the acting chair as so submit. Thank you.
Thank you. I recognize Deputy Chief Whip.
Madam Speaker, ma'am, I move that the debate be now adjourned.
Who seconds?
Second, Madam Speaker.
It has been moved that the debate be now adjourned. Is there any debate? I put the question that the debate be now adjourned. Those who are of that opinion will say aye. Those of the contrary opinion will say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is accordingly affirmed and the debate is adjourned. To what day?
To tomorrow, Madam Speaker, ma'am.
The debate is adjourned tomorrow.
Madam Speaker, ma'am, I move that orders number 25 to order number 32 be stood over until order number 33 has been disposed of.
Who seconds?
I second, Madam Speaker.
Is there an objection? No objection agreed to. The clerk will read the 33rd order of the day.
Urgent debate on motion on the report of the delegation to the 58th plenary assembly session of the SADC Parliamentary Forum.
When this debate was adjourned on 7th April 2026, the question before the House was a motion by Honorable Karenyi that this House takes note of the report of the delegation to the 58th plenary assembly session of the SADC Parliamentary Forum held in South Africa from 30th November to 5th December 2025. Is there any further debate? I recognize Honorable Murombezi.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to add my voice to this report. Madam Speaker, climate change is not a distant threat. It's a lived reality in our villages, our towns, and cities. But its impact is not evenly distributed, Madam Speaker. Women, particularly rural women, smallholder farmers, and those in informal economies bear the heaviest burden of climate shocks. Madam Speaker, when floods wash away homes, it is women who must secure shelter for children. When droughts devastate crops, it is women who walk longer distances for water and firewood. When food insecurity rises, it is women who sacrifice their meals so that children may eat. Climate change is therefore not only an environmental crisis, Madam Speaker, it is a crisis of inequality, it is a gendered crisis. Madam Speaker, the 58th Plenary Assembly of the SADC Parliamentary Forum made it clear climate change is a threat multiplier that deepens existing socio-economic vulnerabilities. Women, Madam Speaker, are already marginalized by unequal access to land, finance, technology, and they are also disproportionately exposed. If we fail to legislate with the gender lens, with gender sensitivity, we entrench gender inequality further, Madam Speaker. Therefore, Madam Speaker, we must enact climate response framework clause that explicitly recognize the gendered impact of climate change. Madam Speaker, the climate change bill that is before this House is a timely opportunity to embed women's rights and resilience into our national response. We need to ensure that our budgets for climate initiatives are not only gender neutral, but gender sensitive, allocating resources for women-led adaptation projects, climate smart agriculture, and access to renewable energy. Madam Speaker, ma'am, this aligns directly with NDS2, which identifies climate change as a cross-cutting priority and calls for mainstreaming resilience into all sectors. Madam Speaker, the NDS2 commits us to embed gender-responsive adaptation and mitigation measures in law and policy. Passing this bill with explicit gender provisions is therefore not only a moral duty, but a fulfillment of our national development strategy. Madam Speaker, I would like to speak on economic dimensions. Women constitute the majority of smallholder farmers in Zimbabwe and across SADC. Erratic rainfall and prolonged droughts threaten rain-fed agriculture, undermining food security and household incomes. Without targeted support, Madam Speaker, access to finance, extension services, secure land tenure, women farmers will remain trapped in cycles of vulnerability, and Parliament must legislate for pro climate smart agriculture that empowers women as agents of resilience. Madam Speaker, the NDS2 emphasizes sustainable food systems and climate smart agriculture as pillars of economic transformation. Yet without targeted support for women, Madam Speaker, who form the majority of smallholder farmers, these commitments risk remaining aspirational, and Parliament must legislate to ensure that NDS2's vision translates into tangible empowerment for women's farmers. I want to quickly jump on to youth inclusion, which was in the report. Madam Speaker, while women are disproportionately affected, the youth are not spared. Young people face disrupted education, shrinking jobs opportunities, and exclusion from decision-making. Yet, as the Southern Africa Youth Parliament reminded us, youth are leaders in motion. Their innovations in renewable energy, digital solutions, and community mobilization must be institutionalized. Women and youth together form the backbone of our climate resilience. I want to jump on to oversight and accountability. Madam Speaker, passing laws is not enough. As Parliament, we must exercise rigorous oversight over climate finance, adaptation programs, as well as disaster response mechanisms. We need to demand transparency, Madam Speaker, in how funds are allocated and ensure that women-led initiatives are not sidelined. Oversight is our constitutional duty, and climate governance, Madam Speaker, must be treated as such. The NDS2 highlights the need for strong governance and accountability in climate financing, and as Parliament, we must therefore ensure that oversight mechanisms are robust, transparent, and inclusive, guaranteeing that women-led initiatives receive their fair share of resources. Madam Speaker, I just want to touch a bit on the regional and global alignment. Zimbabwe Zimbabwe does not act in isolation. Our laws must align with SADC protocols as well as model laws, and with global frameworks such as the Paris Agreement. Regional harmonization ensures that women across borders benefit from fair climate finance, carbon market frameworks, and inclusive adaptation strategies. And as members of Parliament, we must champion this alignment, Madam Speaker. The NDS2 is clear, and it situates Zimbabwe's climate response within both regional and global frameworks. By aligning our parliamentary action with NDS2, We ensure coherence between national development priorities and international obligations while safeguarding women's rights in climate governance. Madam Speaker, what we are talking about here are not just abstract commitments. It is about the lived reality of women in, for an example, Mashonaland West, who face human-wildlife conflict, which is intensified by climate crisis. Every day, women encounter human-wildlife conflict while picking firewood from long distances from their homes. They encounter a human-wildlife conflict while fetching water from rivers that are very far away from their homes and get killed by crocodiles during those moments. But Madam Speaker, it is also about the women in eThekwini who lost homes in floods. It is also about the women in Durban's factories who lost livelihoods when climate-induced disasters shut down operations. Madam Speaker, if we fail to act decisively here, climate change will continue to erode the dignity of our women, the security of our women, and the opportunities for women. But if we legislate boldly, Madam Speaker, oversee diligently, and budget sensitively, we can transform women from victims of climate shocks into leaders of climate resilience. Madam Speaker, I therefore want us to commit to passing the climate responsive laws with explicit gender provisions, ensure gender sensitive budgeting for climate programs, Madam Speaker, and empower women farmers with finance, land rights, as well as technology. Honorable Speaker, climate change is testing the resilience of our democracy. We need to rise to the challenge by placing women, who are the backbone of our communities, at the center of our legislative response. With those few words, Madam Speaker, I so submit.
Thank you. For the debate, I recognize Honorable Karenyi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to express my sincere gratitude to all honorable members who have...
Point of order. What's your point of order?
My point of order, Madam Speaker, I was on the list to debate. I'm still waiting to debate on the same motion. I can see Honorable Karenyi is now rounding up.
Honorable Kachwa, you are not on the list.
Madam Speaker, my apologies. She indicated that she wants to debate, and Government Chief, if we can allow her to debate. Surely it's above board. Before even we adjourned, she was there on the list. She indicated to us. Our apologies on that.
You may proceed, Honorable Khatwe.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to add my voice on this important debate. I rise to debate the report of the delegation of the 50th plenary assembly session of the SADC Parliamentary Forum that was held in South Africa under the theme, The Impact of Climate Change on Women and Youth in the SADC region and the role of parliaments in climate change mitigation and adaptation. Madam Speaker, there is no doubt that climate change now poses an existential threat to sustainable development, more so in the global south, where our mitigation and adaptation capabilities are severely diminished by both exogenous and indigenous factors. Madam Speaker, SADC has been hard hit by climate shocks as shown by increasing droughts, frequent floods, and extreme temperatures, consequently eroding livelihoods, exacerbating poverty, deepening inequalities, and negatively affecting development trajectories and outcomes. In Zimbabwe, we remember the trail of destruction left by Cyclone Elin and Cyclone Idai that decimated lives, livelihoods, and infrastructure, while droughts have seriously affected food security and slowed economic growth. Our development policy discourse, therefore, ought to gravitate towards innovative solutions to climate change in order for us to meet our developmental goals. Madam Speaker, I wish to particularly commend SADC PF for such a timely theme that acknowledges the intersection of gender, exclusion, and climate change. This theme acknowledges that climate change is not a gender-neutral concept and tends to magnify pre-existing social, economic, and political inequalities. Women and youths are disproportionately affected by climatic shocks. These marginalized groups of our society are more vulnerable to climate change since their livelihoods are often highly dependent on natural resources that are sensitive to climate vulnerability, including economic activities such as small-scale farming, which relies on rain-fed agriculture. Climate change impacts men and women differently, Madam Speaker, due to the gender-differentiated relative powers, roles, and responsibilities at the household and community levels. Women are overburdened with unpaid care work, household work, looking after the sick, looking after children and the elderly. Women are the primary providers of water and food at household levels, resources that become scarce during climate shocks such as droughts. Disparities in economic opportunities and access to productive resources also render women more vulnerable to climate change since they are generally poorer, receive less education, and are less involved in community and household decision-making processes that affect their livelihoods. Extreme heat as a result of rising temperatures poses severe risks to maternal and neonatal health. Research has also shown that gender-based violence and sexual exploitation increases during disasters, especially in the context of climate-induced migration. Women and youth are not just at the receiving end of climate shocks, but also have a diminished adaptive capacity. Cultural and religious norms on respective gender roles sometimes limit women's abilities to make quick decisions in disaster situations. Youth are also culturally expected to defer to their elders in decision-making. Thus, climate change is indeed a threat multiplier to women and youth, exacerbating pre-existing social and economic vulnerabilities. What are the solutions, Mr. Speaker, say? As Parliament of Zimbabwe, we must therefore take necessary steps to champion gender-sensitive and people-centered policies, strengthen our national oversight role on climate commitments, as well as advocate for accelerated investment in renewable energy, climate change-resilient infrastructure, and foster climate-resilient livelihood frameworks. Our disaster management, Mr. Speaker, our disaster management capabilities must also be enhanced and adequately funded to ensure agility in our response to disasters that save lives and livelihoods. We have seen how areas such as Chipinge have often relied on civil protection units from our neighboring countries for information and rescue in situations such as floods. Our early warning, early response mechanism therefore needs recalibrating to enhance effectiveness. Mr. Speaker, best international practice directs us to at least allocate 3% of the national budget, of the country's GDP, I beg your pardon, to climate change or climate-related issues. The Climate Change Bill offers a unique opportunity to align our domestic laws with regional and international instruments on climate change, and we must therefore rise to the occasion, seize the opportunity, and ensure we play our part in advancing climate resilient development in line with the SADC climate change strategy and the protocol on environmental management for sustainable development. We must incorporate gender responsiveness and address the disproportionate impact of climate change on women and youths. The African Union has also adopted a model law on climate change in 2024 that can be useful as we finalize our own climate change bill. As Parliament, we must also ensure that we advocate for integration of gender and youth perspectives in our mitigation and adaptation policies. Thus, women and youths must be sufficiently consulted in the development of climate change policies and laws. We must therefore acknowledge the role of women and youths as agents of change beyond victimhood, capable of making decisions and leading conversations on climate change mitigation and adaptation for sustainable development. Mitigation and adaptation strategies must also build women and youths' adaptive capacity through actions that show up women and youths' productive resources, including access to land, credit, education, among others. Robust oversight over mitigation and adaptation funds to reduce corruption is also key to tackling climate change effects. Focus must also be given to coming up with innovative climate change financing models that also rope in the private sector. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, it is my hope that this House will take the discussions at the 50th plenary assembly session of the SADC Parliamentary Forum seriously, and in particular explore more on the nexus between gender exclusion in climate change in order to realize national, regional, international goals on gender equality, inclusion, and sustainable development. I so submit.
Thank you very much, Honorable Hlatshwayo. The next honorable member to take the floor is Honorable Mangondo.
Honorable Speaker, my apology. I had raised to the government Deputy Chief Whip that I was not ready to debate.
It's okay.
I think my name must have been put there by mistake.
All right, it's okay, Honorable Mangondo.
Thank you.
Therefore, I will call upon Honorable Kareni to wind up the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to express my sincere gratitude to all members who have contributed to this important debate on the report of the SADC Parliamentary Forum concerning the impact of climate change on women and youth and the critical role of parliamentarians in addressing this global challenge. Mr. Speaker, it is evident from the debate that climate change is not just an environmental issue, but a social and economic one that unfairly affects women and young people. I commend honorable members for their constructive input, which has enriched our understanding and underscored the agency of responsive legislation, effective oversight, and inclusive policies, Mr. Speaker. Let us remain steadfast in translating this discussion into tangible actions that will protect livelihoods, empower communities, and secure a better future for generations to come. Mr. Speaker, I move that the motion be now withdrawn from the order paper. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Karenyi. The Honorable Member seeks leave of the House to withdraw her motion. Is there any objection? No objection agreed to. So the motion is withdrawn. I recognize the Acting Government Chief Whip.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I move that the House do not adjourn.
Who seconds?
I second, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. It has been moved that the House do now adjourn. Is there any debate? I put the question that the House do now adjourn. Those who are of that opinion will say aye. Those of the contrary opinion will say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is accordingly affirmed, and the House is adjourned. To what day, Honorable Acting Government Chief Whip?
To tomorrow, Mr. Speaker, sir.
The House is adjourned tomorrow. Good night and thank you.